Exactly, but we are already in this game, so let's check and see these spawns. It's Puppy Paw and LaSh on the northwestern side as the Molly, as the French, and who do we have spawning on the other side of Rocky Canyon?
Ooh, on the other side of the canyon, on the southeastern part of this map, Mitoe on the Ottomans going for that military school. As you can see, those villagers making the long walk over. And Magic playing as the French, spawning a little bit more northeast than him. Now, this military school from Mitoe, he's right across from LaSh. And if you take a look at LaSh playing as the French, he's got that gold. It's forward again.
Yeah, it's not only his gold forward, it's also the Molly gold. So double forward gold spawns coming out for Puppy Paw and LaSh. Not what you want to see out of that spawn, especially when your opponent has double back gold.
Yeah, I mean, it's it almost like if you were Puppy Paw and LaSh, it almost makes you want to restart a little bit just because of where those cold spots are. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see if they might be able to hold off some of the Ottoman first couple spearmen that come out. But for the Mali, I mean, we talked about last time we had a forward goal, we talked about the French and how important it was that we saw a couple horsemen come out when we really didn't want to see horsemen, you know, that kind of stuff. Mitoe is actually doubling down, Dabs. That's a barracks.
This is like the OG build you used to see against Mongols or again on water maps potentially as well. You are double producing these spears, and obviously one's coming out free units, yeah, coming out of that good old military school, but the other one, the barracks, you're going to be producing out of. You're going to have so many spears at that gold so fast, and as French, you do not want to drop an archery range. It feels so bad doing it. So what does he do? He builds an early outpost because he knows that at least one spear's coming, but fortunately for him, there's going to be more for him, so this actually could be a benefit for LaSh.
Yeah, I mean, you really couldn't emphasize early enough, to be honest, because usually we don't see French outposts at about 2 minutes into the game just because wood isn't something that they care about collecting. They want to go up to feudal age with their gold and their food so they can get that night out. So to me, even just making them put an outpost down means you're not letting French do what they want to do at Dark Age.
Oh, it's definitely a win. Like, playing with good old Jiggly, who plays French all the time, whenever he sees a French drop an outpost in a mirror, he's like, oh, you know, this is a win. I feel great about this already. So it's definitely a win, but it still is one that now the Mali players should be ahead of Ottomans. Ottomans invested into a barracks, invested into spearmen, and so what's he going to do with them? Now it's time to go pressure Mali. There's houses on the pit mine that are free for the taking.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, with the French outpost, he's like, well, I mean, I already made him do the things that he didn't want to do, and I didn't even need to go over there, right? So getting rid of some of those houses and now actually targeting the pit mine instead, which is a lot better than just those houses, making sure that passive gold income does not come his way. Now, Puppy Paw will get a little bit of passive income just with the Mansa Quarry. Got to shout out Mansa Musa, richest man in history at that time. And when he does get to the feudal age, I'm guessing, I mean, what kind of units do you think he's really going to come out with?
I mean, this is where Mali has to come out with archers to counteract what's coming out on the other side. But you come out with archers, and here come these knights from Magic, and this is so much damage that's actually coming out from Mitoe. He's denied an outpost, denied another outpost, but that's not the outpost really being denied. It's just 4 vills idled this whole entire time throughout all of this, and his French player untouched. So we're gonna see knights starting to pop out, but what's the other player going to be able to end up doing?
Yeah, I mean, you're right on the call from archers. Puppy Paw going to drop that archery range again at a time when, you know, Puppy Paw doesn't want to do that. You know, he would rather put something down like a stable to get some sofas, or, you know, try to get up to castle age or do that kind of stuff, but he's got to end up using that wood that he doesn't want to. And now with that pit mine gone, he's got to find a different place to actually get some passive gold. With that little bit of, with the Ottomans having the barracks and the military school, it did severely delay his feudal age time, his twin minaret, is just about 70% done. We're about 5 minutes into the game. But in terms of what it actually did to his opponent, huge.
Yeah, he's still over here burning on houses. It wouldn't. I mean, I am shocked he's actually running away from the first archer, because I was about to say the knight is on its way. You could just still burn these houses. Just ignore this. Ignore the archer. Just take a little bit of damage. The knight's on its way, and now the archers, they can't do a thing.
No, they can't. And all it takes is one knight, right? With the spearmen now, with all of the torches that they have, only a couple archers isn't going to do it for you. As long as you have one knight there, one spearman might go down, but who knows? That was probably the free one anyway, so who cares?
Yep, another villager coming out to try to build a house, but it feels really, really bad for Puppy Paw's opening here. And a Vil goes down on the side of Magic at least, so some good little bit of raiding by LaSh throughout the pressure on Puppy Paw.
Yeah, that was the first time we actually saw any kind of damage on that side of the canyon. You know, we were just so focused on Puppy Paw's Malian problems, you know, with his pit mine and his houses and stuff. But LaSh able to get some of those workers kills, which is going to help him out.
Oh, look at the micro. Still able to get away just barely, but just barely is all that matters when you are French, because eventually you'll get chivalry. Maybe not this early, but eventually, and that knight will come back in fury.
Yeah, I'll be honest, Dabs. When that knight started going into those spearmen, I think every orifice of mine clenched. I thought that one was going down.
Ooh, but a good charge back on the other side by LaSh, and kind of just getting a little bit of the better one. But oh, speaking of, could have been worse. Damage got spread out throughout the knights, so that's a benefit. Chivalry looks like it might be a earlier investment than later, compared now just based off the damage that LaSh has taken on his knights, because you really are going to need that, as well as Magic might be getting it here sooner than later as
Oh yeah, definitely, and I'm still kind of waiting to unclench. But Magic going for that second town center as the French over there around this deer patch. Really like where that second town center is going. On the other side with LaSh, I mean, he's doing well in terms of knight production. He has just one more than Magic, so that is pretty good. However, he's going to be sticking on that one town center, and I think if he doesn't match the French counterpart, I think it's going to go the way of Magic and Mitoe.
Yeah, it's the kind of French way to play it. A lot of times you match the knight numbers, and then if you feel like you've gotten some damage, or you feel like your teammate can start to protect you up, and you feel like the timing can pay off, you get this quick secondary TC. This location's perfect, how you mentioned. It protects his gold, and it's on that next deer pack, which is just so much food for him in the long run. And they're just now able to kind of play this a little bit more defensively because they invested harder in their eco.
Yeah, and it's exactly the last thing that we talked about in the last series. That second town center is actually a proactive move, because it's going to make LaSh and Puppy, if they do see where that second town center, although that is a quite difficult area to scout being all the way in the back, if they do see that second town center that's there, that's going to make them want to press the issue.
Ooh.
But instead, Puppy Paw, how about that going with a little professional scouts action? You love to see it.
I mean, as the French player, you are licking your chops right now. You just get to full focus on that gold vein. You know your food vills are nice and protected. You don't have to worry about the vulnerability out further. But Magic has his second TC working for him. So the longer this goes, Magic eventually will kind of get to this point where his knight numbers will be much higher, even with the efficiency coming from the extra food that LaSh is getting from his teammate.
And, you know, I noticed, too, with the French, just because that second town center is there, the French get to a point where they're able to consistently produce knights out of multiple stables, and they're able to get up to Castle Age, where I don't think LaSh will have the ability to do that anytime soon if he changes his plans. But now that Magic and Mitoe, you see their units, they're starting to conglomerate up, but together again, some spearmen going to be able to help him out with some archers as well. I think if they stick together, this could be a pretty good solid plan for him, because Puppy Paw just has warrior scouts doing pro scout shenanigans.
Yeah, hasn't quite gotten that huge archer mass that he needs yet. He's only at 9 compared to the other side. That's more than double his currently. So kind of in a rough spot here. I think Puppy might end up looking to go up to Castle Age himself. Gold about to just be fully idled. Double outpost is there, but villagers going to need to run, go to a different location.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we talked about LaSh's spawn in the beginning, but it is rather unfortunate. The other unfortunate thing that I do want to direct the attention to is where's the other gold that he's actually going to go to? It would have to be all the way in the back where Puppy Paw already has houses, and he probably has a pit mine down as well. But Castle Age, you did hit correctly, as Vodka is pointing me out to other gold mines that are over there on the south side and the western side. Thank you, Vodka. I see all of those gold mines. I appreciate that very much. Puppy Paw going for it gave me like 4. Puppy Paw.
Yeah, but they're all just awful locations for him.
Yeah, I know. And then Puppy Paw now going to be the first one to go to Castle Age with the Farimba garrison. So those archers are going to add a little spice.
Yeah, not only will they add a little spice, he'll just be able to mass up units so fast and whatever units he really needs. And at this point, I can see him getting the set of Donzo to maybe defend up from that night mass that there is. LaSh gonna try to just slowly pick off units here and there and force Magic and Mitoe back and not really allow them to have this forward focus, because Castle Age is what you want to punish, as well as Puppy's forward gold, because he needs all that gold for Farimba to be producing.
Oh yeah, and I think if he's able to get some stable, we actually have a night off between Royal Knights. It looks like LaSh actually has numbers for this.
Yeah, I think he took down 3 and only lost 1, attempting to build an additional outpost. Instead, just jumps inside. Will lose the outpost he was going to try to build. And French is getting all in because Puppy went up to castle. How sad.
But that's, I mean, we talked about it before. That's what happens. It's 1,800 resources you didn't spend on units. And you could see from the military count, LaSh trying to get some counter raids over here. It looks like 2 or 3 villagers going down.
And in the meantime, Magic gets distracted, also dives a little too far, loses some of his knights as well. I think LaSh redirected his knights, but at this point, I think you're somewhat okay here. When you are Puppy and LaSh, if you stabilize this point, you're getting some really, really good raids off, as we're seeing more successful raids come through. LaSh, just unbelievable ability with these 3 knights and still defending his base and not taking too much damage.
Yeah, and this is so important for LaSh too. I mean, it's 3 villagers here, 2 villagers there, that kind of stuff. And obviously, they are behind in the eco count, but a lot of times, Mally, they usually are. Knights with a good charge on that archer mass. They are veteran archers, so they might be able to take down Royal Knights, but LaSh is going to have to come in for some backup.
Yeah, and he has that knight number. Looks like a pretty significant mass. Magic pretty distracted at home, has been idled off of that gold for a while, just how LaSh has also. But those knights just continually gotten raids in as another successful raid comes through.
Yeah, I mean, they're just going to keep doing it over and over again. And back to my original point, usually for the Malians, they don't have as much villagers as the Civ that they're playing against, just because, you know, they're getting a lot of passive income and stuff anyway. So even though, you know, you see this is a 25 villager eco difference, it's not exactly 25 just because of the passive gold that Puppy's getting.
Yeah, not only the passive gold, it's also going to be what resources you're going to be lending yourselves to, as if you're not able to take the resources out on the map, then you're going to have to start doing farm transitions, things of that sort. LaSh was able to reclaim some gold and start to wall in, but there is the scary part. Mitoe going up to Castle Age, Mehmed Imperial Armory. I love Ottoman's Castle Age, because not only is it castle, it's an immediate forced siege transition for your opponent. They know a mangonel is coming out in 2 minutes. You also can swap your military schools to crossbows or whatever unit you really want.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Having the MIA, well, I mean, number one, it saves you the wood for a siege workshop, right? But secondly, once your opponent knows that you're Castle Age, they're gonna be like, well, there's a mangonel coming, and if I don't have the resources to deal with it, that could be the exclamation point on the game and really turn the tide here. But now Magic, with the amount of knights that he has, he's got about 12 knights. LaSh with considerably more. at 26, actually going up with the Royal Institute. I think for Puppy and LaSh, this is really their time to strike. Both of their opponents going up to Castle Age, and they do have a slight military advantage.
This is one of the things I talk about all the time when I'm watching games, and a huge knight surround able to cancel out a couple of those knights from getting on home, get a lot of damage in another one. But when I'm watching a lot of people play these team games, as we're about to dive into a fight in a second, it's gonna be like making these transitions into castles very hard when you're both doing it at the same time. It's very, very punishable because that means both of your opponents have resources that they didn't invest in a castle with.
Yeah, and I can see that point too. If one does and then the other doesn't, maybe the other one can make units and kind of stabilize you. So you're going into Castle Age, it might not make it that. But with this one, not so much. We have all 4 players here. Only one side has a mangonel though, Dabs.
Yep, and that mangonel immediately is going to force those archers on the backside. Not only that, the archers, the spears are there as well. So there's units that counteract the knights as well as units that counteract the spears. So Mitoe just kind of has a little bit of everything here, and this allows Magic to really focus on where he needs to with the knights, which is getting a huge surround on a few of the knights of LaSh, who is just now going up with the Royal Institute as well.
Yeah, and that's one of those things for the French player just because of how expensive those knights are. Another one frivolously lost over there on the south side. One of the things for the French is they need that snowball to really get going. And if he's Royal Institute, it's about 50% of the way done. He might take a battle where he's like, man, if I had 5 or 6 more knights, I would really do well in this battle, but he's not going to have them.
Yeah, you never want to lose those knights right before you're aging up to castle, because then you get your upgrades through, you get the royal bloodlines through, and those knights just become tanks out on the field.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, with getting royal bloodlines, again, we're going to see all of these knights being pseudo-imperial, essentially, at that point. And I think with Magic, I saw his at veteran status already. Not sure if he does have the royal bloodlines upgrade, but if he does, and he knows that LaSh just hit Castle Age, it's going to be a little bit of time before he gets those upgrades. Again, we're talking about, with this game, we've been talking about timings over and over again. Ooh, that's a bad time for villagers to be there.
Yeah, really, really good Warrior Scout raid, which is something we haven't really talked about in a while. He's been using those to gather up deer throughout the whole map, which, again, this is what... Oh, that's how he got through. The wall didn't fully get built.
Sneaky. That's why you delete all of those ends of those walls. I don't know if that was a real wall component or just the end, but either way, it just makes it so you're able to get raided. That's more of Magic's villagers get lost. I think if I had to pick for what Civ was getting raided the most, it would probably be Magic throughout this game.
Yep, another little bit of Warrior Scout raid coming through again, and just still proving to be useful if they're able to, use their mobility, run on through some eco behind the walls and get on away after.
Yeah, and it's just those 1 or 2 villagers. That's one of the things that everybody hated about Warrior Scouts. And even though they got nerfed a little bit, I still have a special place of hate in my heart for them. And it's just because the ability to really take down just 1 or 2 villagers, and they just have that incredible speed to get away with no harm to them whatsoever.
Yep, and exactly what they're doing. They're trying to circle back around, probably for the getaway, but main fight maybe about to happen in the middle, as it doesn't seem like the Blue Knights are in positioning here, but the siege superiority is so heavily in Mitoe's favor.
Yeah, because there's only 2 Springles for Puppy Paw right now. We got Mangoes trying to hit. Actually, Magic's reinforcements are going to come in from the east side. LaSh changed his knight trajectory. Instead of going to the Ottoman area, going to be able to try to find those knights from Magic. Is that a chop through in the south?
That's a chop through. He just led him right to a way for the knights to run through, and immediately puts Magic and Mitoe on the back foot yet again. And the knights, they're taking the fight, just going to go for it right off the bat. Says, I have more than you, but going to lose the siege in the front line.
Yeah, and now Mitoe's spearmen are actually going to be coming in for reinforcements, which is gonna help him out, and I understand why LaSh wanted to take that. I mean, there was that chop through. You thought you were going to be able to get a lot of villagers, but now with all of these knights that are here, there are a bunch of them that did go down. Now with some spearmen trying to help him out, he tried to get a lot of vill kills because of that chop through. I just feel like he lost more knights.
I don't know. I feel like I'm on the opposite side. I feel like the trade knight for knight, he maybe picked up an extra 5 to 10 knights, and then he's still able to run through and away if he gets away with the knights, but doesn't want to take this fight here. This immediately kind of deters a lot of the damage he had done.
Yeah, I mean, by that gold mine, it's nice to idle gold, obviously, against a French player, but at the cost of how many knights? A patented, copywritten Dr. Dabston phrase. At what cost?
At what cost indeed, but taking the knight fight again, and it looks like there's a bit more blue knights on the ground than the pink ones.
Yeah, I mean, the military count has been pretty much staying the same. I'm curious to see where it seems like, because there's knight raids going on through all of this with LaSh and Magic knights fighting knights continuously. Puppy Paw and Mitoe really haven't been doing much while this has been happening.
So this is one of the things that it's so hard to always talk about in, well, now when stuff's non-stop happening, it's non-stop night raiding. But in team games, when you have a night civ that's highly mobile and then an immobile civ, it's very hard to push up, because at any point in time, Magic can transition, dive away, and 2v1 the army. So you're very at this like chokehold where it's all about French dictating the pace on where the fights are and what they're doing. And it's basically like, all right, I'm going to raid and I'm going to send all my reinforcing units to you. Just hold off and fall back a little bit.
And we're really seeing that. I mean, you can see just for how many night raids that we have panned over time and time again over the past 5 or 6 minutes. It really illustrated your point of French really dictating the pace of the game. LaSh still has knights in Magic space and going around just looking for a vill pick every once in a while, and every villager that he gets is crucial, because still a little bit on the economic deficit and a little bit of idle time can go a long way too.
Yeah, it's crazy knowing that like both Magic and Mitoe have been on their 2 TCs for so much longer, but the vill count's actually getting a lot closer, and it's because LaSh equalized TC number and they've been the ones raiding this whole entire time. But Mitoe is max population. You can see he got the siege upgrade, in a Vizier Point upgrade, where he can put units inside his siege. So has the, I think it's quicker setup speed and reload speed there. So very good ability, and more raids coming in. Magic feels like he needs to drop another TC.
Wow, that's really interesting to see. And Mitoe on the north side trying to take it to Puppy Paw's giant archer mass here, but there are poison on those arrows. Look how quickly that knight went down from Magic as well. Those are pseudo Imperial knights, and there's enough archers to really take them down.
I was about to question why he didn't cancel this keep so much, but I guess he just knew that he was going to be able to have it stay alive and still build it, although there's not too many vills left, it looks like, to build it.
No, there are 2 vills in a dream trying to get that. Speaking of keeps, probably one of the most aesthetically pleasing keeps going to be made by Mitoe, the Sea Gate Castle in Imperial Age, but he's looking to take a fight in Castle Age as well. Magic getting that charge over there on the east side, but a couple of knights getting poisoned in the process. Debs, I think we're going to see a big skirmish here.
Yeah, knights are diving in on the other side, and it doesn't look like Magic has a huge mass here, whereas LaSh, he still has a big grouping in. Siege superiority firing in from the top side, and 4 mangonels still prove to not be enough to deny the keep, as it should end up going up.
Yeah, it's really nice that Puppy Paw has as many spring molds as he does, right? He has 7 total on the map, and even though obviously the Ottoman siege, you can garrison something in it, so they're a little bit quicker, but you still have to match that springald count. If you're just coming up with 5 mangonels and 2 springalds, 3 springalds, you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah, once it gets to late game, it's super important about that siege superiority. And speaking of late game, we can see the full trade transition coming in from our double blue squad. The Seagate Castle going to make that trade so efficient as well.
Yeah, it's very rare to see even in a 1v1 setting especially, it's weird to see a Seagate castle actually paying off in the trade aspect than just being a defensive landmark. But now that Imperial Age has been hit again, this has been a game of timings. LaSh and PuppyPaw trying to get that timing because Mitoe went Imperial.
Yeah, there's a ton of units here for Puppy. He just hasn't been able to do anything with these units. And the question is will he be able to do anything with these units? They're trying to push through. Mitoe has a very, very immobile army with his siege mass. Looks like they canceled some walls to help him get there a little bit quicker. But still, this kind of just standoff. They're just kind of holding off back and forth. Either side just doesn't want to take this losing fight or potential losing fight, waiting for the other one to overstep just a little bit and make a mistake.
Yeah, I think it's just how cataclysmic it would be.
When a good night charge.
Good charge. Go ahead, take it.
Good charge coming in. The Springled Mass from the top of the hill, though. They have I think they have the ranged upgrade in, but at the very least, they got the units inside of them, so have that quicker reload speed. Puppy Paw, though, has cleared up the majority of it, but LaSh has lost almost all of his knights, and Mitoe is just absolutely shredding with his siege.
That was amazing for how well Mitoe took down the Springleds of Puppy Paw. Looking at that, I was like, well, there's enough Springleds there. I think he might be able to take down some of these Mangonels, but man, that was a cataclysmic loss, it feels like, from LaSh and Puppy Paw. They have to give up that field position all the way in the middle. Mitoe sends 2,000 food to Magic.
And if you're French getting 2,000 food and now you're transitioning to trade, this game is going to start becoming very easy. Also, Ottomans having that much food's nuts because they have no extra like food bonuses. They don't have English farms or inspiration or any of this stuff. He's just had max pop, so hasn't had to use more resources.
Yeah, and I mean, besides that one night charge that LaSh had on those archers have been staying alive for pretty much the majority of the game because that was the one big fight that really took place. So he hasn't had to make units in a considerable amount of time.
Wait. I heard what you just said, but I want to go back to that wall segments we just looked at. We see some night charge circling in on those Mangonels, able to pick up a few. They're the same team. What the heck are they doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure if those are. I'm not sure if those are actually doing anything, or am I looking at an MC Escher painting? I have no idea, and I hope somebody in chat gets that reference. But I mean, they are kind of. They are protecting.
Oh, the Knight surround by LaSh, but is it going to be enough? Magic's going up to Imperial Age, so losing almost all of that Knight mass that was forward right as Imperial Age is being dropped. I don't think it's the biggest deal because the resources he used for Imperial Age were all Mitoes.
Yeah, that's true. And when they do get the elite status and the Red Palace going up, that's a very difficult landmark to take down. So wherever that Red Palace does get built, he will have a little bit of position or defense, whatever he chooses. But good raids over here, Dabs. A lot of LaSh's farmlands are going to start getting idle.
And it's just as he's dropping some more farms too, so you know he is needing more and more of this food income. He doesn't have that fling like well, maybe we haven't seen some of it like Mitoe has been doing to Magic on the other side. So just doesn't have the same ability to mass knights to match the tech advantage either.
No, and I mean, I know LaSh's, he did put a second town center down, but that second town center was obviously a little bit delayed. And you can see on the left side of your mini map as well, some of these pink markets, these knights are a little out of place.
Mangonels, oh my god, the heat-seeking shots, and Ottoman just able to set up a little bit quicker, able to get those shots off, and so many red units on the ground. Puppy Paw will be able to remass back up quicker, and he's starting to get that siege superiority with culverins, but I see a great bombard in queue.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait to see that great bombard. That mangonel shot was, it's such a deflating thing.
Oh,
Elite
and there's
Knights
the
come in
upgrade.
just in time. Oh my god, that's insane.
Look at the timing. They just know these timings so well. And yeah, I was about to say, just ignore this fight, run away, and hit eco. You can see another keep attempting to be dropped. Some other knights that he can easily circle around and pick off in the back. All right, now he turns back for it, but now the archers are a little bit closer in here for it. So just circle around the eco and just run around nonstop and cause mayhem, because this means you're continuing to trade, you're continuing to take more and more of this map control, and the eco of Puppy and LaSh is about to get demolished in a little bit, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, you are going to get some villagers that are going to go down. More importantly, Puppy Paw's entire military mass, his archers, the slow archers, are in the corner of the map. So, you know, Magic is sending knights over in this direction. He has some forward production with some of these stables. Look at these archers. They're just, there's like 60 of them, and they're just trying to find these elite knights. There's not really anywhere to go for them. Malian Culverins, though, is going to be the answer for that siege superiority. We saw a couple of those going down. That's 88.
88 archers just in the middle of nowhere, not able to help, not able to do anything. Fire arrows are in for Mitoe, so those archers and crossbows going to be doing a significant amount of damage, as you see the elite knights on the other side with that many just kind of melting like butter.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of, see, I feel like it's a little bit of Puppy Paw trying to do too much. He's using his archers to try to get these knights, but LaSh has really got his knights over there, because that's the only thing that's really going to catch up, and these culverts are going to go down.
And Magic, he's got too many knights, and they just don't have the units to deal with it. There's too many units of Magics all over, and he's causing a ton of eco damage, and I don't see Puppy and LaSh lasting too much longer in this one unless they can cause some magic.
Oh, spare me. The knights from Magic over there on the western side obviously took a decent amount. Now LaSh had to send his knights up front against what this, I mean, this is a firing squad of all of those Ottoman ranged units. They are going to back up a little bit eventually, but a lot of knights went down from LaSh, and just because of that eco going down, I don't know if he's going to be able to reproduce them like Magic can.
Yeah, this is where the fight, though. Puppy Paw has his 90 poisoned archers, so at least this fight was going a little better for them until more and more of these reinforcements coming in. Trade is starting for Puppy Paw and LaSh, as well as Vodka is highlighting up at the top. So that can be their chance in the game, but trade only matters if you can protect the trade. And those knights, if they're not taking this fight, they might just be heading more towards eco.
Right, and that's the issue, right? With traders being so expansive all over the map, the knights are going to have an area to attack at whatever point. There's a random culverin next to a pit mine that's 1,000 resources, which are going to be bursting into smithereens at a time when your eco is under duress and you don't really have 1,000 resources to do that again.
I keep waiting for the Great Bombard to come out, but Mitoe hasn't lost enough units for the Great Bombard to come out.
Oh, it's just hanging out. It's just hanging out in queue. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, with the Great Bombard, for how many archers Puppy Paw has, it would actually be pretty good.
Oh, dude, it's unbelievable once you can get a few of those. It acts like a mangonel, a bombard, and I guess a shorter springled as well. But it looks like Mitoe and Magic are pushing further and further forward. They're not doing this too hastily. They're slowly and methodically creeping forward. Keeps, outposts, get upgrades on them, take good fights, don't throw away too many units, and still raid eco while you're doing all of this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, honestly, I feel like Magic is the MVP of this game. I feel like he's just putting on a clinic on how to raid eco. If you want to learn, as somebody who wants to play French, if you want to learn how to harass your opponent and quite possibly give them nightmares and flashbacks when they go to bed at night, you should probably be watching this game.
Oh, a nightmare.
Thank you. I'm glad you got it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Knights are still diving in, just head force into each other, and it looks like Puppy is making the sofa transition, realizing he needs mobility on his side. He needs something to headbutt the Knights as well. Although they might not be as strong, they'll at least be able to chase down and be in the correct locations.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with all 4 of these players at this point, I mean, well, I want to say 3 players because there's one player who does not have a lot of units, and that player is LaSh. I see 4, maybe 5 Elite Royal Knights for him. He needs a front line to try to help, and there is our BBC, our big bombard cannon coming out there.
Yep, that's exactly what that stands for. Big bombard
Exactly.
cannon. He's got 22 Knights. I just don't know where they are, and as they come out, they just get obliterated, and he doesn't have this stack up of a queue. You can see he has 0 Knights in queue, whereas Magic 20, well, now it's down to 9 Knights in queue, 4 Trebuchets in queue. He's got a ton of units out here onto the field, and LaSh just seems like he is running out of steam.
Yeah, and I mean, his base has been under duress for the past, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. You know, just getting raided over and over and over again. So it's going to be difficult for him to even mass up at all. I mean, we talked about it. Now with Magic having a nice little Knight mass being able to surround these archers, Puppy Paw's archer mass is starting to dwindle.
God, those mangonels just set up so fast, I feel like. Able to close down on these archers much quicker than expected, and they are making headway on both sides, and more importantly, right in between both players, dividing the bases so no trade would able to be worked or able to do anything of the sort.
Yeah, and this is really interesting from a team game perspective too, because if you're able to sit in the middle like this, they're not going to be able to put their forces together. That great bombard shot a great bombard ball at that keep, and that keep went down to its foundation.
Yeah, getting taken down quite quickly. Main TC about to get taken down. It's going to be the farms, the secondary TC, and quite a bit behind that as well. Puppy Paw looking to do some raiding. Don't think it's going to be too effective. There's just too much on this front line. The military ball is massive. Mitoe has done an unbelievable job just constantly keeping his military mass alive and together.
And you know what? Actually, Mitoe did a pretty decent army composition too that we didn't allude to, but he added a decent amount of Janissaries to his range mass, and you could see how much damage is getting shredded because of those. Look at that elite Janissary, 28 damage base, not even with the increase to cavalry. Those elite knights, they don't have a prayer.
Yep, and the main TC is falling. Knight's trying to circle for LaSh. He's trying to do something. He's got 30 Knights. He's got the same number as Magic, not the same queue, I'll say, but the same number, and it's just not going to be as effective. There's too much on the front line, and he will start losing more and more units here.
Yeah, this is such a frustrating thing in a team game perspective. When you're trying to get trade going, you're trying to get your eco situated so you can actually make units, and you're just constantly getting harassed over and over again. One of the most frustrating things to come up against playing team games.
Yep, not able to do a thing here. You can see they're desperate. They're trying to find some raids, trying to do something to get them back in this game, but I think it's just going to be a little bit too late for themselves. They had some opportunities, they had some timings, but there it is, Puppy Paw. He says, not this one. Let's go ahead, move on to game number 2, and Mitoe and Magic take game 1.
Wow, this was quite the display from Magic and Mitoe. Like, just their ability to not only play with each other, play the map that they're given. You know, they had a little bit of advantage just because of the spawn initially, but how they were able to keep that pressure over and over again throughout the entire duration of the game. Besides that one LaSh night raid where it was that chop through over there from the French side, from Magic's wood line, the western side of his base, they were playing defense the whole time. And especially when you're a French composition, man, you hate playing defense.
Yeah, it always feels bad when your knights are on your side and not the opponent's side of the map. But enough about game number 1. We see game number 2. It's the same civilizations as we saw the series before on Lipany. It's Rus and Abba versus Rus and Abba. So an exciting matchup. 5 TCs on either side. At least, I'm going to say at least, make sure to say it this time. So going to be calling this, and we talked about this matchup a lot in it. So once we're jumping into it, we can kind of resume some of that and kind of talk about what you should expect to see in this game in just a little bit. But Puppy and LaSh, they're going to want to try to fight back in this and extend this series.
Yeah, and I mean, I really think they can. I don't know what civilizations both Puppy and LaSh are going to play respectively. I mean, obviously we know Rus and Abbasid, but I don't know who's playing who. I've seen Puppy's Abbasid, and it's fantastic. I've seen LaSh's Rus, and it is fantastic as well. I would be hard pressed to think they would be going in the opposite direction, but I've seen Puppy Paw have some ridiculous, just in a 1v1 setting, I've seen Puppy Paw have some ridiculous holds for the Abbasid dynasty. He does a really good job of one of the things that I actually really appreciated what the Viper did when he played AoE4 actually was he knew just how greedy to be. And that's one of the things that Puppy Paw I think has down to a master class. He knows how greedy he can be with Abbasid without losing the game. And if you can pull off as much greed in a game like AoE4, it ends up carrying you, and it ends up winning the game, having that much economy. So maybe we'll see that from Puppy Paw and LaSh if we even the series. But with them going up against Magic and Mitoe, who, again, they just lost to, but on Lipany as another Rus and Abbasid, give me how long you thinking? Maybe an hour for this one?
Don't wish that on us. 42 minutes if we're being realistic.
42? Okay.
Oh yeah, probably something around there. But you know, it's one that I will say with these matchups, it can be those timings that if you hit this correct timing, especially pressuring someone such as Abba, it can be devastating. Last game with Lipany, we saw the spawns quite close. We saw how effective the Kremlin was able to be in protecting both bases in a sense for quite a while. So we'll check and see the spawns on once we see the map design, map layout, and get into this game and can kind of see if there's any advantage we can spot out on either side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always curious to see. It's Lipany, so there's always a little bit of map RNG, map generation, whether it's EGC or otherwise. So we'll see if one actually gets the advantage or not. I am getting a message that I think we have our next game set up already. Do we not?
I believe so. So that's where I figured we'll just jump right on into this next game as long as Vodka's up and ready to roll. And then, yeah, there it is. The sheep are coming on in. We are going in game number 2. It's going to be Puppy Paw and LaSh spawning in on this southwestern side. It's Puppy Paw playing his Abba and LaSh on the Rus.
Yeah, I'm glad they played those civilizations after talking about it pregame because, man, I would have looked stupid. That's for sure. Their teammates.
That's a beautiful.
Or their opponents. I'm sorry. It is a beautiful hunting cabin. Their opponents, Magic and Mitoe. Magic spawning to the western side of this one, playing as the Abbasid Dynasty. Mitoe on the Rus with a not as pretty hunting cabin. Still a pretty good one, though.
It's good, but it's like average. I'll give it average, not even good.
It's not LaSh's cabin. Let's be real.
Absolutely not. Key though is gonna we talked about it the games earlier. The bounty in the early game can really help these Rus players snowball quite a bit. It helps you get those extra eco techs, survival techniques, wheelbarrow, double broadaxe, everything of the sort. There's the extra bounty on the map. So the question is if you're your teammate, you're gonna help your buddy out and kind of start one-shotting the deer on your side to expedite the process and hope to counteract your opponent, or do you just straight try to counteract your opponent?
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I just want to give a shout out to you personally when we play team games, because when I play Rus, you always one tap all of the deer and then you ping them and be like, hey, those are one tap, but then you go leave. And my bounties have never been better as a result, and I appreciate that. In a professional situation, maybe doing something like trying to disrupt your opponent's bounty might be a good idea. But just like how we talked about the last Roos Abbasid mirror that we had, it just seems like just because of how much is there and how much bounty acts as how much wolf, how much deer patches and all that kind of stuff, you end up getting a good amount anyway.
Yeah. No matter what, you're usually hitting your 250. It's just usually how close or how quick can you get to 500. Puppy Paw looks like he is still circling. Might actually, yeah, there it goes. Counteract out the deer all the way on the side. This is usually that kind of expected to be guaranteed deer on your side, but you know, that's where you're going to be aggressive. And we already see the big difference in the mirror matchup already. It's eco versus military wing.
Yeah, I think last time, I don't know, because we saw this in the last game that we saw with one going military and then one going eco. It seemed like eco did a pretty good job in the military wing with those 2 spears and those 2 archers. It got counteracted pretty quickly, don't you think?
Yeah, it did nothing. I think this is one of those things that people are stuck to military and 1v1 specifically. Military and 1v1's unbelievable. You can get so much value, so much reaction. If your opponents don't respect it, you basically can just win the game with it. But in teams, it's harder to have it pay off. You have to run a little bit farther. Your opponents can react. You have a opponent to his teammate can help him. There's kind of these other factors to deal with, and the archers and spears just get counteracted so easily. Just with 3 archers is all your opponent needs.
Yeah, and we saw that last game. It was an easy archery range, and then just an easy 3 archers right afterward. Now with these Kremlin placements, we took a look at Mitoe's Kremlin right there on the western side of the map, and as we'll be able to help out, give Magic a little bit of defensiveness. LaSh's Kremlin right on that deer patch, right on that stone, and nowhere near his starting town center.
Yeah, not quite as much of an OG, but 33 gold coming out from that hunting cabin. What an unbelievable one. Might see a little bit of some, whoa, no wolf battles here, but Kremlin finishes for LaSh, immediately moves on over to Stone. He's up at 270, basically 300 bounty is what we'll call it in at. And the Kremlin, it's funny because the Kremlin's just so effective in defense for Magic there, and it's what are his military units actually going to do. I feel like he could have gone greedy, could have gone to eco wing with that Kremlin placement.
Yeah, I think he could have too. It's interesting because Magic goes with military wing, and he's sending his spearmen and his archers out. LaSh's Kremlin, obviously not helping too much, being all the way on the other side. So maybe we see where this military wing might actually do a little bit of damage. But I did see LaSh put a stable down. He might be starting to queue some units. He does have a knight in the queue, so he might be able to help out Puppy Paw. The real nice thing about Puppy Paw's spawn, though, a lot of the resources that he needs is all the way in the back behind a wood line, behind a natural mountain cliff. And he's even putting that second town center there, too.
Speaking of, look at the wall that just came through right in next to that natural mountain cliff that you mentioned. I believe now these units have to go all the way around, and by the time they do, that TC's finished. They, again, this military school, or military wing, not military school, military wing, just proven to be ineffective.
Yeah, I mean, I can only give you from these 2 subjective cases, so these are anecdotal evidence, but military wing doesn't seem that great in a 2v2 setting. I don't know if objectively it's correct, but in these 2 situations, it really didn't pan out. And it just means that Magic and Mitoe are going to be a little bit on the back foot. Puppy Paw gets his town center up before Magic does. So a little bit of an eco count in the beginning.
This is so bad. He already canceled this, moved out with the villagers, moved all the way back, then moved out again.
Yeah, this is a lot of idle time trying to get that town center, and it's a very forward town center. It's going to be difficult to defend in the first place. Villager does go down for Magic now. Economic count 53 to 49 for both of these sides. Mitoe actually had to call some gremlins to help too.
Yeah, and just think about in the grander scheme of things. Puppy Paw has had his TC up for a while, and villagers have been pumping out and working for him. Magic is still trying to build that TC, and now LaSh is having his second TC come up as well. I mean, Mitoe has his, but I just feel like Magic in the Abba mirror is just so delayed as of now.
Yeah, and this one, in contrast to the first game, this one's looking a little bit better for Puppy Paw and LaSh. Now, Mitoe does have his second town center, which is over there on the more eastern side of the map, and has some fortified palisade walls to build over there. But again, just like you said, they're going to be fighting from the bottom, and they're going to be trying to stop the hemorrhaging from the economy loss that they're going to have. And it's not really going to help anytime soon because Puppy Paw's starting to build his third town center.
Yeah, and like a 5 eco lead is nothing to be joking around about already this early. And it's just like going to continue to climb as Puppy Paw is just a step ahead in the Abba. And I love how you talked about it before, like just kind of guessing the civs on who was going to pick who. I will agree it was somewhat obvious with the LaSh Puppy Paw combo, but Puppy Paw definitely clean opening here for his Abbasid.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just kind of shows how good it is for your crescents to be fertile and get those town centers up quicker. You know, I mean, just having an economic wing, especially in a 2v2 setting where you have a teammate that can help you out. Now, LaSh did go with the second town center, but he has been around this map. He has been making knights. He has been keeping, his teammate away from any kind of damage, so he's able to do this without a hitch, and that's why you're seeing the economic counters because of that. Now, Magic now starting to get a little bit of units, starting to queue in some archers, does have a nice little camel boy out there adding some unease to not only scouts but knights alike.
Yeah, Magic and Mitoe have a little bit of a military lead as far as now goes, but Puppy Paw and LaSh can easily match up those numbers. You can see how Puppy's trying to, or LaSh is trying to be aggressive with his knights, trying to find somewhere to be able to raid, but the proactive wall is just not really allowing any of that.
No, and I can't appreciate the walls as much as I don't like to build them in my own games. It's very important to wall, and Puppy Paw, because of being pretty much unscathed. Nice raid by LaSh. Looks like one villager goes down by Magic. That's gonna really, again, elongating that economic lead. But Puppy Paw, because of those 3 town centers and because he got them a little bit cheaper, means he has the ability to go up to Castle Age. Going to be going with the military wing.
And look, I love watching this from an outside perspective. At first, Magic is pushing forward with his whole military mass. He's pressing forward towards Puppy Paw's base. A night raid comes in behind him. He pulls his whole entire mass behind. And this is at the crucial timing that Puppy Paw went 3 TC into Castle. He is super, super vulnerable, but just timing is allowing this military wing to pay off a little bit harder. Vills are still working. He's able to drop extra production buildings, save up those resources, and then when it finishes, his mass, he's going to be able to climb up so quickly.
And honestly, I feel like that's like a result of how many practice games they had. Honestly, by playing those 2 civilizations. I bet that perfect timing for that raid, they probably didn't even think about it. Now, Mitoe and Magic finally get to Puppy Paw's base, and looks like we're trying a ram ranch, trying to punish that 3rd town center, Dabs.
Yep, the Rams are coming into play, but by the time the first one gets finished building, maybe makes its first connection, the military wing's finished. We see triple range, so it's actually Puppy massing up archers. He already has his teammate prepped and ready with, it looks like a few more knights, but there's a camel. So the camel on these will make this a little bit of difference. Defender's advantage, gold getting focused, one more drop off going to be had, and this is going to be that crucial timing right as Puppy reaches castle. Gremlins should be called from LaSh as well, and here comes the big defense. You talked about Puppy knowing this greed, knowing this fine line, and this is going to be that fine line. Can they defend it? Knights still just kind of poking, prodding, playing that distance game, but the Camel Riders so effective, and the Gremlins just going to be thrown away because they can be.
Did you see? And did you see that really small thing from Puppy Paw with that third town center? He did garrison his gold villagers in there, but predominantly hit the only couple of spearmen that were in Magic's army composition. And then these knights just started going to town after that. Those 1 or 2 camel riders, just like you said, made the difference. Had the unease for Mitoe's knights. Mitoe does not have the knight mask because LaSh, he only went with that second town center, so he was able to make a decent amount of units. Now, oh my gosh, we're gonna see more Kremlin militia. It's gonna be a militia war.
Yep, and I love the surround here, the forward positioning by LaSh's army, and now they can just back right on away. Yes, Magic does have a huge ranged mass here currently, and Puppy Paw is actually massing up ranged units himself, not going for any of those gulams or any, specialty unit, just archers.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see he's not going for any kind of armored units. I know just because he's got to keep producing out of 3 town centers, maybe archers would be easier, but what's nice is because he's military wing in Castle Age, not only are his archers going to be better than Magic's archers, but they're going to have composite bows and they're just going to shoot faster.
Yeah, it just needs that number to climb on up, as he will clearly lose that matchup if there are 43 archers on the other side, and there's 43 archers on the other side.
Yeah, just like that. And I think for Magic and Mitoe, which is interesting because they were kind of put on a timer just because of how many town centers they chose not to make, right? You could see the economic count at 140 to 122. So now it feels like they perpetually have to keep making units and do a lot of damage before they can try to age up themselves.
Yeah, and sometimes if this lasts too long, sometimes you get stuck. Even if you find a lot of success early on, the longer this goes, the more and more outclassed you'll be. Puppy Paw has 9 ranges. He's getting more and more of these upgrades. So soon enough, these archers are just going to be hitting like actual crossbows almost. Knights diving forward, and so many more pink knights in their arterial. LaSh moving forward and getting that good positioning like we were talking about. Cutting off the escape path, so not allowing the archers to get out with their lives. And another good victory by Puppy Paw and LaSh. Numbers heavily in their favor, and numbers don't always tell the whole story because there's 53 archers, and that's basically the whole entire military count from Magic and Mitoe.
Yeah, and they're inferior archers, right, to a Puppy Paw's mass, and this is one of the reasons why the Puppy Paw's playing in these games and both me and you aren't, because I probably wouldn't have chosen archers, but now I see how valuable they are in the army composition beside LaSh's early knights for the Rus. And now, I mean, he doesn't need siege engineering to do this. He's going to start making siege where the other 2 players that he's playing against are not castle age yet. Magic just hit the culture wing button. It's 1 minute and 45 seconds to go up for the Abbasid dynasty, whether you like it or not.
Yep, and the mangonel is just going to be that perfect difference maker. There's no way that Magic is going to be able to build one. He's not castle yet, and there's a lot of timing here. The first ram, the big difference. We talked about it with Puppy. This fight, there was no distraction. There was no reason to pull back the military. The rams hitting when Culture Wing is a quarter of the way, maybe. This TC is falling, and not only the TC, it's going to be villagers, it's going to be these houses and production buildings to follow, too.
Yeah, at a time when he can't lose things like economic production. They've been down in villagers for the entirety of the game. This is just going to make it hemorrhage more. And now, again, just about another 50 seconds to 1 minute before Castle Age is even a priority. There's 5 archery ranges there that probably were the majority of where those archers came from. And they have bullseyes on them now. Not just the archer targets, but actual like the rams are going to get them.
Okay, sure. That's definitely what you meant. Okay. But rams are taking down, if we can see Puppy Paw, he's essentially max population over here. And if we know anything, once max population starts happening, he's going to start funneling resources over to his teammate and going up to Imperial Age.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely going to be able to. I mean, there's a reason why he's population capped, and I don't think any of the other 3 civilizations even are even his teammate, right? So he's able to just barrel in with all of those archers that he has of the veteran status, and it looks like Castlage just gets hit by Magic, and Mitoe will be going up with that, Mitoe will be going up with that high trade house in just a little bit to try to give him some Castle Age Knights as well.
We will end up moving to game number 3. We're getting word from the production squad from the back scene that it actually was a crash right when GG was called. So desync happened. GG was ended up being called. So moving on to game number 3. No real gap in coverage, just a gap in the ending that we could have seen there, but no big deal. Gonna go ahead, take the next step, and this is gonna be maybe the longest game of the day.
You think? Yeah, I think it will be in our map number 3, the Dale Betwixt the Hills. It's gonna be a China and HRE mirror. And I see Frognecko in chat say, "Oh my goodness," and you are saying what I'm thinking, brother.
I know, everyone's so excited. Everyone loves watching Chinese. Very, very cool, boomy civilization. HRE, they change it up. They, might go for the relics and Palace of Swabia maybe. But let's go ahead and see what we have in store for us. It might be a shorter one than expected. Puppy Paw and LaSh spawning in on their hill in the northeastern side. And who is spawning on the opposite?
Spawning in the southwest on their respective hill. Mitoe playing as the color teal in the HRE. I'm going to say it again, spreading the word of their Lord Jesus Christ to all of those villagers for that increased gathering speed. His teammate, IamMagic, playing as the Chinese in the color blue. Now, I'm taking a look at these hills again, Dabston. We had a decent amount of time where we were like, hey, you got to come off of your hill. You got to go out and do stuff out there. You do have one of these wood patches and a little, I'll call it bushel, over there on the south side, as you can see on Mitoe's part of the map, and it looks like every civilization does have it. But decent amount of gold here, and it looks like there's a couple of good stone outcroppings too.
Yeah, I will say the wood is the key, though. Like, you can't get into an extended late game without wood control, and one wood line with that small bushel, as you said, is not even close to enough for that. You're gonna need trebuchets or other sorts of siege with keeps involved and things of that sort. So I would expect that we will have to see some movement out on the map, but both teams playing the same civilizations, they have the same uses for control as far as that map control goes. There's the Barbican, there's keeps and outposts, which China can build quite quickly, but the first landmark is being dropped, and it's Mitoe back on the deer.
Yeah, I really like this Aachen Chapel. You're gonna get some of that gold, you're gonna get that deer pack. Don't even need to spend the APM and the mental gymnastics to get your scout over there that herd those deer to the town center. Just put them by the chapel anyway, and you get a little bit of that wood line, which is gonna help you out. And then when you want to farm transition a little bit afterward, you'll be able to. Now, LaSh is the HRE. His Aachen Chapel spotted a little bit to the south of his starting town center, and it looks like, well, he's got a pretty decent amount of resources too.
Yeah, and not only to mention his deer are going to be nice and tucked up next to his town center, safe and secure. So Mitoe, yeah, he might be able to save some APM. He's going to be a little bit more vulnerable if any raids happened. I say if because it's going to be a while before either of these players probably drop military. I wouldn't mind seeing some horsemen, and the reason I say that is to just take a little bit of control. You're going to need to have that vision, maybe deny where a secondary TC goes, or deny villagers going out in some greedy resources on a Barbican. Speaking of Barbican, one dropped front and center by Puppy Paw.
Yeah, you could see that on the top right part of your mini-map. Basically, the only real open area where that hill is placed, and you can see Vodka doing a good job taking a little look at that one. And you can just kind of wall around it with some of the the wood lines that are there. There's only that little bit. That's probably the only other open area that you could see over there on the western side for these hills. Surprisingly enough, there's not too much in the way of real good flanking opportunities. I mean, we expect that from Hill and Dale, but especially with that Barbican in the center from Puppy Paw, it's going to be nigh impossible to try to get any kind of feudal aggression, even if they wanted to.
Yeah, I love this if I'm Puppy Paw. You drop the Barbican, you're like, all right, I've done my job. You wall your side now. And like the massive openings are on LaSh's side. LaSh is like, really, man? Come on. You're China. Like, can you come wall for me, please? But the whole entire front side feels very, very secure, at least for the early game. And Magic, he's got some ideas for the Barbican himself, as he has 3 villagers building it front and center, a little bit further front, as there's more openings on their side, and it at least protects up the deer and protects up that main middle opening.
You know, I love how Magic is putting his Barbican up here for a couple different reasons. One being they know what civs they're playing against. Right? They're playing against another China and another HRE. 5 minutes into the game, building that Barbican, you're going to put it smack dab in the middle of the map. It doesn't matter. No one's coming. So you can just build that Barbican and you'll be okay. Secondarily, yeah, it patches up that middle. Got to remember for Magic, though, his teammate and who he's playing against does have an HRE. That Relic's important, too. That Barbican's going to help him preserve that one.
Yeah, and another thing we kind of talked about earlier was the wood lines. Both of these Barbicans very near to a wood line, especially the one in the sorts of Puppy Paw and LaSh, and that kind of secures it up for both of them. And look at this, Puppy Paw not allowing Magic to get any sort of easy deer. That being said, he's already on some deer near his barbecue.
It's just like that little stuff. I don't know why, for some reason, I always kind of chuckle at it a little bit because it's so annoying. Like, it's so annoying to deal with. Maybe it's just because I play Roost too much. But at the 6-minute mark for Mitoe, his Regnitz Cathedral is halfway done.
Yeah,
and he's going to be starting to pick up relics.
Look at where the prelates are. I believe there's one right in front of that relic where the Barbican is, and it's a Regnitz being dropped for LaSh as well, just way delayed. And oh my gosh, the amount of vills on that, it is going down fast. A little bit more to the north, that is going to be it. There's a spear there, though.
I think that's why LaSh's was a little bit delayed. Wasn't exactly as naked. Now that Spearman, not going to be doing much in the way of damage or DPS, but I think for this prelate, as long as he gets to the Barbican, he'll be okay, and LaSh's Spearman actually has other plans because of that Barbican and goes in the opposite direction.
That's such a feels bad. I don't know why you would choose Spearman of all the choices here. Very immobile and just not very effective ever in taking down prelates. I feel like I don't know if I've ever really seen someone go, all right, I'm just gonna mass up a bunch of Spearmen in an HRE mirror. But that is what LaSh decided to do. Maybe he knows more than I do in this matchup we got going on. But what a good early game so far by Mitoe, as he is castle, and not only was he castle that much faster, he was castle with 3 prelates far out on the map. Very well prepped early on.
And for LaSh, this is really frustrating, right? I mean, you spent the little bit of time to get a barracks and get a couple spearmen to try to get that little bit of map control to get relics, and then by the time your Regnitz Cathedral actually gets up and you want to send prelates out, your HRE counterpart on the other side of the map is dropping off his 3rd relic.
Yeah, this is a huge feels bad, but the question's going to be is how are the 2 Chinese players going to stack up against each other? They're the higher seed players. They're the ones who might be the battles. And oh, LaSh just barely able to snag that relic before Mitoe gets there. And Mitoe just didn't even send 1 prelate. He sent 2 that way. So if these prelates go down, that's actually going to be a pretty high cost that he's given up on.
Oh yeah, it's a decent amount of gold to get every one of those prelates, and it looks like the one brethren is trying to heal the other one up, who might actually end up going down. And he does in that stealth forest. You're right. How much? I mean, I know he's getting a decent amount of relics, and I can appreciate that, but if you're spending it frivolously for a prelate that dies in a stealth forest, it doesn't help you in the early game.
Yeah, and I actually think that the Relic game is going to be a little bit closer than I expected it to with that early couple pickups from Mitoe. I thought it was going to be like a whatever, what is it, 5 to, I think there's 7 total that spawn, 5 to 2 potentially, but I think it's just going to be a 4 to 3 for Mitoe.
Yeah, I thought just because that little bit of increase, and you're right. I mean, he picked up 3 pretty much off the bat, and the Barbican kind of helped him out too. So PuppyPaw actually adding some horsemen there in Feudal Age made it so LaSh wasn't that behind. So if I'm LaSh later in this game and they do end out getting a victory from it, I definitely thank your teammate.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a thank your teammate, especially when it's something of the sort of helping you secure up those relics. Horsemen trying to just do a little bit of damage, but walls gonna be proven to be useful. Spearmen just slowly forcing that horseman out in certain ways. And speaking of walls, both LaSh and PuppyPaw investing in walls on their side, both Magic and Mitoe investing in walls on their side, just kind of trying to protect up their main ecos.
Yeah, and I mean, those walls are going to work for a couple different reasons. I mean, it's not necessarily walling the hill, but if you're walling out there a little bit farther, it just means that some of those wood lines that you need to get to eventually later in the game are going to be a little bit safer, and it just means things like what PuppyPaw is doing with his horsemen doesn't happen perpetually. This is just a one-time offense. That prelate's gonna die.
Oh my gosh, that's such a huge pickup. That horseman was just like, there was no way that horseman had any means to get anything else with his lifetime. And he's like, you know what? I see this little prelate as some low health. That guy's mine. And also denies that relic from immediately going in that outpost once it finishes.
You know, that one horseman, he took down one of those prelates before. He ended up trying to, you know, get rid of the one prelate so LaSh could pick up his relic. He lost that, or he killed that prelate. I think that horseman's a hero. I'm going to say it.
Palace of Swabia.
At 11 minutes into the game, Mitoe with a Palace of Swabia. I mean, I say this in a 1v1 setting when I'm casting 1v1s. If you let HRE do HRE things, you're probably just going to end up losing. And letting an HRE player go with a Palace of Swabia at about 11 minutes, 40 seconds, that's HRE stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's just those relics were secured so quickly. The walls were already down. LaSh also invested, I just saw 3 knights come out, so invested way heavier in the military. And he has 10 knights out on the field. This is a timing that actually could be a detriment for them. But the knights don't really have a bunch of locations that they want to be at. They're still circling around, finding some picks here and there. My question is now, LaSh, he probably is just going to stop some knight production and go up to castle, I would think, after this.
Yeah, I mean, he has to. I mean, when you're going up against an HRE player and your HRE, one has Swabia and you don't, you know it's an issue. And you know that's something that you can't really dingle on. Now, with these knights that are here, they did get a couple good villager kills on Mitoe, but these 4 knights have to be the heroes that PuppyPaw Horseman was before. Because if he doesn't get a decent amount of vill kills, if he doesn't create a lot of idle time while he's going up to that Palace of Swabia, they're going to be fighting on the back foot.
Yeah, the problem is every single vill he's killing, it's just not really that as effective when Swabia is already up. It's like, oh, okay, let me just reboom. Like, you realize I have a printer here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I'm good to go. And those knights slowly getting taken down, and there's still no Swabia.
Yeah, and that's so frustrating, too, with anybody when you're playing against HRE with a Palace of Swabia. You think you do so well on those raids, and then another villager pops out in 5 seconds, and you're like, I just worked so hard. I made knights, I put them all the way around the other side of the map to kill that one villager, and it took you 5 seconds to get it back.
Yep, and we're starting to see more of that map control starting to be secured. It's a keep by Magic, it's outpost in the boar by PuppyPaw, but LaSh still lacking Imperial Age, didn't quite have the food. We can see that farm transition's massive though for him. Looks very, very nice, and Mitoe even double walling his southern side.
Oh yeah, Mitoe, he's like, hey, you guys, I got my Swabia already. I don't care what you guys are doing on the other side of the map. And even when Mitoe hit Imperial, they were down probably about 15 to 18 villagers. Now they're up 5 because of the Swabia and those Knights are of Elite status. You saw them go right across the Barbican, so they can have some raiding potential of their own. They're going to be able to take down some of those gates, and they're going to be able to try to find wherever some of these pocket ecos are. There's a board that they just went out over there, and I'm sure PuppyPaw is going through some kind of farm transition, granary transition as well, so that's a raidable area.
Look at these vills trying to rebuild those walls, but spears have other ideas, able to get a few little pokes through that gate, and villagers just barely able to stay alive, while LaSh slowly masses up a few spearmen, just kind of trying to delay this as long as possible, as Swabia halfway up. But look at those are elite status knights.
Yeah, HRE is very aesthetically pleasing knights, as you can see with their nice little funny hats in the color cyan as Mitoe is playing. Now PuppyPaw going for Imperial himself, and is actually going to go with a Great Wall Gatehouse. Vodka, I would like a look to see where that Great Wall Gatehouse is, because if it's anything like one of the prior series that we saw, I'm going to start getting angry.
It's mid-map by the mid-gold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
oh, that's great. That's a great spot.
Yeah, awesome location. And a great job by PuppyPaw moving his spears over, allowing LaSh the ability to go up with Swabia and really protect himself up. So 12 vil difference, yeah, it sucks, but it could be worse, I will say. And oh, the villagers are coming out, and the Great Wall finishes, and you can just see how effective that Great Wall is. Walls immediately have to be canceled, and 5 villagers go down in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Great Wall Death House because of all of the Nest of Being placements that are there. Like, anything that comes in way, you need a trebuchet in order to take that thing down, and not just one. You're going to need multiple, because with a Great Wall Gatehouse, if I remember correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it still takes wood to repair, does it not?
Yeah, it's wood to repair.
Unbelievable. I don't like that.
You don't like anything from Chinese. We already know that civilization is your mortal enemy. That being said, PuppyPaw is taking this map control which I really, really like for their side, but Magic doing the same thing on the north, and there's so many resources out on this mid-map that if they're really just playing it with this split map, it's kind of just one of these that who's the first to really break.
Yeah, and I mean, you can kind of do, based on, you know, these military units that are covering the middle of the map, it could become a little bit of a war of attrition. If you see PuppyPaw, he's got a rather forward keep over there on the south side that we saw over there next to those 2 gold mines that are really, really important for someone like Mitoe, for the HRE who needs a lot of gold. Maybe the relics might not be enough if they're continuing to make units and pop capping themselves, or for someone like Magic who's going to need gold eventually. But Mitoe, just because he did hit Imperial Age, going to get those sacred sites first.
Yeah, sacred sites are all capped. Once this keep goes up, this really solidifies one sacred site that Puppy and LaSh can easily deny, which they just did. Knights still trying to defend from all spears, and this is where, like, you got to start making other units, which we see some men-at-arms, we see some land snakes behind this, which is exactly the unit composition he will need to defend from a big spear mass, but the Nest of Bees proved to be a problem.
Yeah, and I mean, we see it time and time again while we're watching Chinese games, just having the Nest of Bees, especially of the Clock Tower variety, of course, having that little bit of extra health. They are so difficult to actually take down just because of the health they have and the amount of firepower. It just becomes the primary enemy #1 in every battle that you become a part of, and it means the HRE on the other side could probably start making some culverins to try to counteract them.
And look at the positioning from those Nest of Bees, immediately just able to wipe the whole entire melee mass. There's no land snakes there anymore. There's a few men-at-arms that are all under 10% health, and they're still like, what is that, 30 spears?
Yeah, I mean, all the things for the spears are a little bit out of position, though. If LaSh is able to get a flank around north, and it looks like he might be able to. I don't know if the spears are going to get there in time. One bee ends up going down, but the spears do preserve the other 2 beehives. All you got to do is make sure that those nest of bees stay alive, and you'll be okay in that area.
There's villagers that are going there with it, so they are planning on a keep with this push. However, Knights are still there. Both of the Chinese players pushing on either HRE side, but Puppy Paw helping his side while pushing still.
Yeah, Puppy Paw is all over the map right now. He's really trying to help LaSh on that side. On the south side, he does have a couple nest of bees as well, which might not necessarily do the great against something like Elite Knights from Mitoe, but it's still a presence to be feared. And I think even though Magic only has 3 villagers, maybe 4 villagers at most, it's a Chinese keep, remember. So if he takes that little bit of time, that front line stays alive, that keep might go up.
There's only 3 vills there, and they have been working so hard, but that nest of bees just needs to move forward just a little bit. Could potentially get some damage on the keep. Speaking of, Puppy Paw diving the other side, spears on top of Knights, able to get a significant amount of damage. More importantly, all of those chapel farms have been absolutely crushed, and the keep gets denied. Oh my God. 99% is what it looks like to me. What a huge denial. Puppy Paw knowing his timings, and oh no, it's proxy stables that's now just going to non-stop funnel into the base. Hill and Dale, this might not be a 42-minuter that we were expecting if we can see this continuing to tilt towards the side of Puppy Paw and LaSh.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if we're talking about sides getting tilted, the south side of the map is very puppy tilted right now towards Mitoe, and he keeps continuing to push the initiative. He's going to be sending with those stables. It looks like in the queue he's sending Fire Lancers out there, Dabs.
Fire Lancers indeed. So not only are we going to have Fire Lancers, this is where it gets really scary with Yuan Dynasty because of that transition as well. Allows that extra movement speed, and LaSh, he's stabilized fully, and he has a huge mass that we all know that HRE late, like everyone in 1v1 always talks about HRE beats China in 1v1s. China has to do something special with it. Well, now HRE's held. HRE's to the point where LaSh is feeling really good about himself and looks like he's trying to push Magic.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting how this map kind of developed, because we saw Puppy Paw kind of help LaSh a little bit on the north side, but that's pretty much it. It's kind of looked like 2 simultaneous 1v1s going on at the same time, because both Puppy Paw pushing that initiative to Mitoe, so Mitoe has to protect his own base, LaSh doing the same with Magic, so it feels like they can't help each other. As long as one side breaks and the other side has to come help, it's basically game over.
Yeah, and Puppy Paw has bombards. Luckily for Mitoe, already has culverins out, so we'll be able to snipe down those bombards pretty well, but not before damage has already been done. Fire Lancers just taking the fight on the front side. Puppy Paw continuing to stream units, and Magic's gotten to the point where it's like this sunken cost. He feels like he has to continue to produce or else they'll fall behind, and he needs to go up to Imperial as well.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you. It just seems like he has to keep making units or his side just gets utterly defeated, because LaSh is already there with the economy. Now both of these forces are starting to combine those men-at-arms, just providing that little bit of firepower that Puppy Paw's front really needed. And we talk about this all the time. When you're fighting, you got to fight with your teammate. 2v1's not a good idea. Magic trying to come up on the northwest side. I thought he was going to provide reinforcements. He decided to turn around.
Look at these units, though. They're not actually attacking. They're not getting the surround. They're stuck behind the sacred site in the tree line. It's just they're funneled in through here. So the mass isn't actually a mass. It's not actually providing an additional benefit.
Yeah, that's true. It's not really doing much of anything just because of how small that front line
that's a lot of vills.
That is, that's got to be about 30 villagers trying to get some stone.
Please tell me there's a land snake. There's not one land snake in that mix, but there is a lot of palace guards there to protect it, but not before a lot of those vills are going down. Mitoe says, I don't care. I have Swabia. You can all die. Your job's to get stone. You'll just be replaced.
Oh my God. I mean, I know they're peasants, but you give them a break. They tried. They did their best.
We finally see Imperial Age coming out from Magic. They still have a significant amount of resources on the top side. Yes, PuppyPaw secured a couple of those 8k gold veins, but it looks like LaSh did a great job of resecuring some 8k gold veins as well in the north.
Yeah, really good job by him too on this south side by Mitoe adding stone walls. I mean, he saw all the fire lancers, right? And he knew that his base would have been completely under rubble if he didn't put stone walls there. So good job by him. Magic finally getting to Imperial Age and getting those a little bit more technologically savvy units, especially with those upgrades coming in pretty soon. They're pushing the initiative to the middle. Is this something that you think PuppyPaw and LaSh can hold?
They need to hold it. PuppyPaw was definitely planning on a keep, but instead he's throwing a nest of bees away, offering as a sacrifice. Please take the nest of bees, give us another minute. They say no. Mitoe still pushing in, wants to have some bloodshed on his hands as the minute arms surround. A culverin pops out, gonna try to get as much damage as possible, but will the fight be a benefit in front of him? It doesn't look like it's going their way.
No, and the thing is, I mean, there's anti-siege from the side of Magic and Mitoe as well. They have their own culverin, so that culverin's got to back up. That main DPS unit of the Nest of Bees can continue to rain down in that area, and now it's LaSh's Aachen fields that are under duress.
Yeah. We see a quick stone rewall on the southern side. There were some Fire Lancer raids. PuppyPaw trying to cause some havoc on the other side, but damage is being done significantly. 3 cannon outposts, though. That helps out quite a bit.
Yeah, with those cannon outposts, and I saw PuppyPaw also put a keep in that general direction. It's a massacre, Dabstead. Look at all those villagers.
That we talked about the wood lines. That's no more wood. Mitoe doesn't have a place to gather wood anymore.
No, and I think it's just because of how PuppyPaw matriculated his way down to the south. That part of the map, that south part of the map, you see all the red on it, on the mini-map. There's no way he's going to get to that wood line. He's going to have to go to Magic's side if he needs any wood at all.
Yeah, and so just how the base of LaSh is getting absolutely obliterated. It feels like Mitoe is taking quite a bit of damage himself. There's a few keeps that are going down that I feel like this one shouldn't be. But things are just going on all over the map. PuppyPaw trying to get another keep up in his base just to defend himself. Same thing goes for LaSh, but Puppy has another huge force that's pushing further and further forward.
Yeah, again, PuppyPaw in the 26th minute of this game is continuing to try to carry it on the south side, doing a good job of keeping that front. That keep from LaSh actually doing a good job getting some repairs going, being able to take down some of those knight-like palace guards. Man, they're Usain Bolts out there.
Yeah, but 2 keeps end up falling at similar timing. But speaking of falling, all of these villagers of Mitoe's on the gold in the central point just getting shredded by these Fire Lancer raids. LaSh, same thing is happening to him though, as Magic and Puppy both seem like they are the ones dictating the pace and taking the control.
Yeah, and it's crazy how they're doing it with how much military they have. Right? If you look at military count right now, Magic and Mitoe, they're almost at 100, whereas PuppyPaw and LaSh are just about at about 25. As far as LaSh's army goes, it's basically non-existent. He's been licking his wounds for the past few minutes now.
Yeah, trying to get resources somewhere out on the map. Him losing that gold, losing all of those villagers is devastating. But luckily for him, he's going to be able to remass back up quite quickly if those farms aren't touched, at least for the next minute or so. And oh my good God, how many nest of...
Vodka.
I don't know what we just missed. They're all gone.
They're all gone.
Oh, but the palace guard's able to get on. We do see that Vodka pointing out that Mitoe and Magic ready to transition to trade, but Puppy has a plan for this game, and his plan is a siege superiority plan. Yes, they might be down 60 military units or so. They have 43 siege population. So 6 nest of bees, they can make some quick mincemeat of that army as long as they're protected.
And especially if they're in a chokehold like this. Look at all those palace guards that just went down. There's so many nest of bees. You can survive maybe 1 or 2 stings, but about 26 of them. It makes it pretty difficult. Magic trying to come in with some of his cavalry units to take down a couple bees going down. But I think some of them will be preserved south end, though. Mitoe with that flank of men-at-arms. These bees are going down, Dabs.
Yeah, the culverins stepped up, quickly sniping them down, but luckily for Puppy and LaSh, able to get a significant couple volleys off, and all of a sudden that men-at-arms mass in the center was very, very devastated and hurt, and LaSh's, although they might not have the numbers, they're showing that they can still win the fights without having all of the infantry numbers. Puppy, though, wood villagers.
Oh my God, that's a graveyard now. That's not even a wood line. But even though, I mean, yeah, you did lose a lot of economy there on the wood line, you're trying to get that wood line safe for villagers to come back. And of course, those villager corpses might add some fertilizer to those trees as well. But the military now is starting to even up. LaSh's army composition now actually exists. He has a lot of men-at-arms now. They're going to be able to shred things like those fire lancers and those palace guards just because they don't have that much armor. Oh my God.
Yeah, so Puppy Paw is like holding this front line with the nest of bees and LaSh's like main infantry mass, and he is about to go for the throat on Mitoe's main economy. Fire lancers, there's only a smaller mass. Actually, that's a little bit bigger mass of men-at-arms than I expected now. So Siege starts to fall back away, as I don't think Puppy wins that with fire lancers and only a few nest of bees.
No, I don't think so. It'll probably take a little bit more firepower for him to do so. Maybe not fire lancers, but in general, man, Puppy is hemorrhaging villagers. Some more villagers going down on that gold mine. Great Wall Gatehouse trying to save them. It looks like they just might, but in an area where that gold was safe for a considerable amount of time, doesn't feel as safe anymore.
No, not so much. Fire Lancers just proving how strong of a late game unit they can be. And Puppy, he's on spears because they don't really have damage that they can find with their Fire Lancers. The stone walls have been up for a while. LaSh hasn't really been able to push out, and it looks like another keep gets taken down.
Yeah, and I think that was a super important keep for Puppy Paw too. Those were 2 gold mines that Mitoe would really like to have. And it looks like Magic is giving him the opportunity to actually get them again. There's so many of these outside resource nodes away from the hill. We're just seeing dead villagers in all of them.
Yeah, just raids coming down all across the map. I feel for Vodka here because he's just pings everywhere. Yeah, I feel for the players here because the same thing's happening for them as well. But the armies are starting to congregate together. It looks like Mitoe and Magic want to take down the Great Wall Gatehouse. And I think that's all good as long as Magic doesn't lose his whole entire eco behind this. The hand cannoneer transition is what I was expecting from both of these China players a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's certainly going to be helpful against some of the unit compositions that we see. Look at how much damage that Great Wall Gatehouse does, Dabston, and tell me that is balanced. You tell me.
It just took out that bombard that was just trying to do a little bit of damage there. All these units just get absolutely shredded and obliterated. Not taking beneficial trades, but look at the military numbers. Mitoe and Magic, they're just continuing to climb higher and higher. Even taking this damage, they're still over 120.
Yeah, and there's no signs of slowing down. I think just based on how their economy is, and Mitoe with his Aachen farms potentially untouched, and, you know, obviously he has his relics too, he is going to pump men-at-arms until the cows come home.
Jeez, yeah, we just saw tons and tons of granaries, their chapel farms as well. That's everything behind this hill is just going to basically be farms here later at this game. But this is still a fight more towards the middle of the match. Mitoe sending resources to Magic. That's an odd thing to see. You'd expect China to be the one that over boomed almost, but it looks like those raids from LaSh proved to be a little bit more effective than expected. Culverins on the backside from LaSh now as well, but that is 6 Culverins on the other side, I think I see.
Yeah, I mean, there's not going to be that much as far as siege from Puppy Paw and LaSh, but there's still a giant gatehouse there. Okay, and it's going to continue to ravage all of the men-at-arms that Mitoe has. I know from talking to other professional players when it comes to the Great Wall Gatehouse how it's pretty much a no-go zone. And you just go around it. You don't try to deal with it. And now I'm understanding why.
Yeah, I mean, men-at-arms, they don't do too well.
Yeah, just shoot him from another dimension, dude. That's fine. What a ridiculous landmark. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. That's like a Berkshire Palace.
I wish this had a kill counter. Like, that's all I really want. It's just a kill counter on the Great Wall Gatehouse. But the wood line, again, proving to be vulnerable. Puppy Paw is making that hand cannoneer transition that I was expecting and wanting earlier. Tons of a queue for both LaSh and Puppy. This game, we're at the 34-minute mark. It is looking like we're going to hit 42, as I guessed.
Probably 42 on the dot, I would imagine. Mitoe going with some bombards against that Great House. Sorry, I'm really just fixated on the Great Wall Gatehouse, I think, because of how much it upset me. But keeps from Magic going to be going down. LaSh actually with a little bit of siege, having some Rams Fire Lancers might be able to do quick work on them. But these are wood lines that, even though they're mostly gone, these are ones that Magic did deem safe, and he's probably going to have to end up moving more south. Now with about 35 minutes into this game, Dabs, this really is a battle for wood now.
Yep, battle for wood indeed. There's still a lot of these random smaller wood lines, a bunch of random raids coming out throughout the whole entire map, but we finally got to the point the armies are congregating together. We are starting to see some big fights. So many culverins out for Mitoe. He has the siege superiority by a significant margin, but where is his teammate? Where is Magic's army? I don't see it anywhere near.
No, it looks like Magic's army. I mean, if I can look at the minimap, it looks like it's funneling more north and northwest than anything else. I mean, as far as Mitoe goes, he's essentially getting 2v1. He's trying to, Magic is trying to get to this area on the north side, maybe for a raiding opportunity, but there's stone walls there. That's not going to help him. And Mitoe, I mean, yes, he can keep pumping men-at-arms out, but there are so many hand cannoneers from Puppy Paw right there in that stealth forest, and they're just licking their chops. Every single men-at-arms they see is a dead one.
Yeah, they just haven't moved. If only they were Streltsy with that double time and static ability to just non-stop have that extra attack speed, but still tons of damage coming out nonetheless. Fire Lancers going around for a circle, and this time it just seems like Magic's going to be a little late here as Puppy Paw and LaSh just absolutely crushed Mitoe's main army.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mitoe's getting consistently 2v1 for the past, minute now. Finally, Mangonel, let's see it.
Oh, perfect timing. Puppy Paw has it. Oh, he just now realizes the Mangonel. He splits off a group, and he probably shouldn't have split off that group as they all got obliterated. Some of the Fire Lancers swung through. They're into the heart of Puppy Paw and LaSh's eco. It looks like maybe trying to get through some keeps.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was more so like a diversion tactic. Like Mitoe was like, yeah, I can hold for like maybe a minute or two if you're able to do some damage, but that damage is not getting done. He's still not into that area.
Hand cannoneers just obliterating Mangonels. They have.
And I think
that makes more sense to me. They have high base damage.
Improvement for China. Don't they get something a little bit better?
Well, they have extra range on their hand cannoneers, but I think it's the lack of siege works as well from the other side, potentially.
Okay.
That being said, look at just the siege mats. Mitoe's done a really good job continually keeping military alive in a lot of these games we've watched, but is it going to be enough here as it is LaSh and Puppy Paw's army together with Magic trying to do eco damage? Walls get deleted by those Fire Lancers, hand cannoneers shredding the front line, and it might just be leading another way for Mitoe and Puppy to head into their eco, but Mangonels pop out again.
And that was like a martyrdom. If
you were about to say get obliterated. They were about to get obliterated, and then, which they did, but still able to get the shots off. I think probably paid for themselves.
Yeah, no, I think they did. The siege workshops, they're at a perfect, a perfect ambush kind of point. As soon as they pop out, they can just fire. But I think now, Magic now starting to, as you can see on the south end, he was starting to rally his troops a little bit. He did get Fire Lancers around the back, and I'm thinking maybe they did a little bit of eco damage. But if you take a look at the economy on the top part of your screen, Magic and Mitoe have been trading for a decent amount of time. They have 30 traders. Puppy Paw and LaSh do not. And they're probably going to be starting to get their trade going at some point, but we've seen this before in other 2v2 games. Sometimes if you get the trade started a little bit earlier than your opponent, it could carry you.
Yeah, especially if you're pushing through towards this, your opponent's not going to be able to start trade if Magic really gets a firm grasp of that location. But Rams and Military still pushing heavily through the center, so it feels like Magic and Mitoe are giving up a lot of location and central ground, but will have this timing that their trade and everything is still paying off well, and they might be starting to hit eco in a little bit.
Yeah, and Puppy Paw, you look at that. Even you can see Puppy Paw is starting to pull some of his units over there because he recognizes the immediate danger. Hand cannoneers with that range, like you talked about, shooting from what looks like to be above the cliffs of Dover from how white they look. It looks pretty cool. The bombards from Magic of the Clock Tower variety do have to back up, and I think just because of Puppy Paw's little bit of help, it means Magic's front is pretty much deteriorated.
Yeah, and, you can see how detrimental gold is right now for Puppy. I think he just started dropping a university, doesn't have university upgrades. This is 40 minutes into the game, and we are now starting to run lower on resources. Gold is out for Puppy and Magic with no trade online.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what, when we get to that post-Imperial area, we talk about when your units die, you talk about how you're able to reproduce them and if you're able to continually cap pop yourself. And I think we're getting to the point where stockpiles, now that they're running dry, we're not going to be able to see that as much. So these armies that are here and the masses that are here, 128 to 106, there might not be a long time left in this game, maybe the 42-minute mark, Dr. Dabston, where there's no stockpile left and they can't reproduce.
Yeah, I keep on looking for like gold out on the map, and it's all on the side of Magic and Mitoe. There's just none for Puppy and LaSh. They've used it all, and Magic and Mitoe, plenty of 8K gold veins still and have trade available. So unbelievable job, but main fight coming on in. The hand cannoneers trying to kite on away. Magic's here with his palace guards, with hand cannoneers himself. LaSh diving on in, trying to get towards that siege ball. They haven't been able to fully wipe that siege ball yet of Mitoe's, and he's just done such a good job. Look at where the men-at-arms are standing and hovering around.
Oh, look at what Puppy Paw did. That Mangonel coming down, but he split those hand cannoneers. I swear he split them into 3 different groups to make sure the Mangonel didn't hit them. And there's, I mean, Mitoe has had culverins for the duration of this game. He's had anywhere from like 4 to 5 culverins. I just haven't seen them hit anything recently.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much siege that's able to be pumped out when you don't have gold, and right now Puppy Paw's using all of his gold on hand cannoneers, LaSh using all his gold on men-at-arms. They need that front line, but they look like they're starting to run a little bit lower and lower. Magic and Mitoe have a massive queue. Puppy and LaSh do as well, but it just doesn't seem like they're max population in comparison.
No, I mean, you can, I think you could tell just based on the army counts, right? One being at 120, one being at 75. There's one of them, which one it is, one of them is struggling. And I believe we're looking at LaSh's perspective right now, sitting at 160 population. And it seems like he's never been able to get over that, 160 to 165 area. Maybe it's just because his men-at-arms are going down as quickly as they are. But take a look at what's going on the north side now. Before this battle, you got some culverins and some mangonels here, but Mitoe and Magic are sharing that wood line. That might be one of the last ones.
Ooh. And it looks like Magic has gotten through onto the trade, onto the heart of the eco, right as it started to get online. Right as Puppy and LaSh go, okay, wait, we finally are getting golden again. We might be able to hold, we might be able to do this. It's about to get just shattered.
Yeah, and they're in another choke point again where there's a couple mangonels from Mitoe that can get some good damage if they target those hand cannoneers, Dabs.
Yep, good still circling on the backside. LaSh sending units there to try to clear it up, but Trader still being wiped. Front line still being wiped as well. The wood line, there is a wide open spot to run through on the front side, and Magic and Mitoe are heavily leading this battle, I feel like.
Yeah, I do too, and I could see LaSh obviously trying to establish some semblance of map control on the western side of his map with some Rams trying to help him out. Mitoe with a good old-fashioned face keep right next to that base over there, and I think if he's able to get a stranglehold in that area and keep these players, keep Puppy Paw and LaSh in their respective hills, able to take down the trade, that could be it.
Yeah, Mitoe just has done such a good job. I've said it multiple times this game, keeping his siege alive. When it does die, it's not like he loses all of it. He only loses a few, so always keeping the siege superiority. He's kept that frontline mass really, really well, and they're diving through onto the base of Puppy and LaSh yet again. But will this one be the one that ends it?
Yeah, I mean, they keep creeping and creeping in. And you talked about, again, I'm going to belabor it too, about Siege staying alive. There's a reason why, is because it's an expensive unit. If you keep getting it killed frivolously, that is quite the issue. And Puppy Paw with his Rams going to be able to try to, I mean, he's going to try to take this keep down. I don't know how well that's going to go off. Let's see if these Mangonels get some good shots off.
Oh, at least one of them before they got down. But hand cannoneers still all alive at half health. Culverin's just going to pick off the siege on the other side. Magic moving forward with bombards that are just planning to kill out everything in their path. Trade has begun, but will it be enough?
Yeah, and I mean,
oh, it's walled in.
Magic's villagers are going to be able to do something around that neutral trading post. I'm thinking they're going to be trying to wall that one in the north while that battle's going on. These bombards, these siege, we talk about keeping them alive. It looks like they might end up going down if they don't retreat.
Oh, that's not a wall. It's just barracks. It's just going to be palace guards. Why not?
Oh, of course. Yeah, a barracks, of course. But actually, I mean, just because that area, I think there's an area on top where LaSh's hill is on the north side that isn't walled. So if there's an area to try to get palace guards in there and just consistently raid that area, you're going to see that army deteriorate. He's putting walls up even.
And double keeps attempting to be dropped by Puppy and LaSh, both in that area. They know they need to resecure that. They have the army numbers because they've been losing vills. They've been losing traders. So finally getting army population involved here. But is it going to be too little too late?
I mean, Puppy and LaSh really look like they're doing a good job of holding this area, whether it's siege or otherwise. Puppy Paw has so many hand cannons back there. But I do see a cheeky little beehive over there by Magic. It looks like a Men-at-Arms is going to take it down, so no beehive hits. If that hand cannoneer mass stays alive, I'm not sure how much he's got, but it's got to look, it looks like to me it's around 40. If those end up staying alive for Puppy Paw, I don't think the melee units from Magic and Mitoe are ever going to be able to climb this hill.
Yeah, and they definitely secured the trade with 3 keeps, so that location secure. Now they can full focus onto this mid-map again, which, again, 48 keeps, 48 hand cannoneers, more than enough. The Great Wall Gatehouse still proving to be super effective.
It's super something, I'll tell you that. Now the hand cannoneers are starting to actually climb down the hill. They're starting to get some progress. LaSh just throwing Men-at-Arms, trying to be the front line for these hand cannoneers. We know what the DPS unit is in this fight that keep trying to help out with a little bit of bombard and placements. But they don't have anything, you know, they don't have any siege. They don't have anything to necessarily take that keep down. It just feels like, yeah, they win these battles here, but they can't venture out. They're still stuck here.
Yeah, it's just it's this slow crawl, and this is what kind of starts to happen at these gridlocks in these team games. It's who can end up making these slow differences, win these slow battles, do these raids here and there, stop trade, and then we're going to see resources start to run out.
Yeah, and I think Magic gave a pretty valiant effort on trying to stop that trade. I think Magic and Mitoe are probably the only ones in the position that can deny the other person's trade because of Puppy Paw and LaSh fighting on the back foot for the past, I don't know, I want to say 5 or 6 minutes now.
Yeah. Hand cannoneer mass has climbed to 50, so nothing to be joked around about, and culverins are starting to be equalized on the other side by LaSh, but it's just still not to the same degree. It's still not the same number, and when it comes to siege, you need the siege superiority to win it.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that really does make the gridlock. Like we're seeing, we have culverins on either side. There's no empowering number of culverins that really turns the tide. There's about 3 each side, anywhere from 3 to 5. Some of them are ending up getting sniped. Magic trying to get some fire lancers in that general vicinity, but hand cannoneers using their own flesh and blood to protect those culverins while also dealing damage at the same time. I think, man, I mean, a couple more Nest of Bees, you take down those culverins and the hand cannoneers could go down. I think this number is starting to dwindle a little bit.
Yeah, we even see a TC dropped on the keep for emergency repair, and I love it. Magic and Mitoe, they're taking the resources as far forward as possible and leaving safe ones behind. It's such a good strategy when it comes to a map like Hill and Dale. Hand Cannoneers, though, just constantly wiping everything on that front line, but we've gone from 50 down to 32 for Puppy, and it doesn't seem to be climbing up as fast as it was falling.
No, it really isn't, and I think a little bit of that is, now that the trade is actually established and it's safe, I don't think we're going to have an issue with hand cannoneers in the future, and I think you'll see a stockpile from him going up a little bit more. I can even see, just because we're looking at his perspective, you can see some of the gold. I mean, with the trade, you can see it bumping up every once in a while too. So as long as he has enough to get a couple hand cannons in queue, he's got 11 in queue right now. It doesn't seem like this little stalemate in this, I want to say, perpetual battle ends. It's just, I'm not seeing an area where it does.
Oh, just give it time. Just give it time. There's always going to be an end in sight. The question's going to be when. As Puppy and LaSh, it seems like they've stabilized. It seems like they're breaking out of this and dropping more and more keeps. And as more keeps get dropped, it's harder to do these raids where you're just kind of like sending fire lancers in and throwing away some units, because they all die before they actually connect with anything.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. Looks like that little bit of hill is starting to get claimed by Puppy Paw and LaSh a little bit. Again, we're talking about increments. This is these battles. I mean, it kind of feels like how in the 1700s when you had line infantry, right? Every inch counts.
Question is when do you go to Grenadiers? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I was actually, I was gonna ask that question. Grenadiers don't sound like a bad idea.
I feel like the only sad part is then you miss the Yuan move speed bonus, I believe. So you'd want to go Yuan after, which finally we do see some we see some blue units on the backside, maybe doing a little bit of raiding on the trade, but Mitoe, his front side mass having to fall back, Siege having to fall back and not get any connections.
Yeah, look at all those traders that end up going down. It looks like it was just a couple, but just having those fire lancers there, being annoying and stopping that area is really important. I really thought Puppy Paw and LaSh were here to come up a little bit, but Mangoes did a good job of clearing around some of that hand cannoneer mass. Puppy Paw now at about 30.
Those men-at-arms were dancing. That was cute. Oh. More raids coming in though, and it's not just on Puppy Paw's villagers, it's on Puppy Paw and LaSh. That's their wood eco and on the backside of the trade. Main fight's still happening in the middle, and it's not even going bad for Mitoe and Magic, who are raiding elsewhere on the map. So really feel like they're still in control. They're still the one who can dictate the way that this game is going to be played out.
Yeah, look at all those villagers that end up going down. It looks like neither player kind of had an idea of all of those. So the wood eco, probably, I mean, I keep saying it, but that probably is one of the last wood lines, if not the last. And if you're going to do things like Magic is doing to LaSh's keep, if you're going to be doing things like making rams and things that cost wood, you're going to need a little bit. There's vodka to prove me wrong. On the south side, there's that one wood line that Puppy Paw probably would be able to get because of that Great Wall Gatehouse.
Yeah, wood lines take forever to end up running out. That being said, it does look like Puppy Paw and LaSh's population numbers are starting to dwindle a little bit. We can see it up at the top. We're at like 100 of either military and eco, not including trade. There's another 50 trade, but That you can't just make units with gold. You're gonna need wood, food, something else as well.
Yeah, you can see that in terms of total population, right? This is the first time for Puppy Paw and LaSh that they are, with the economy and military combined, are under 200, whereas Mitoe and Magic are at about 270. Finally climbed the hill, gained that little bit of increment, and it looks like there's enough Fire Lancers here. I mean, the Hand Cannoneers are doing some work trying to take them down, but these Hand Cannoneers are continuing to back up to that one Puppy Paw keep that we have not seen in some time because the battle has not been there.
Yeah, and there's already so much siege out. That's one of the things you can't really see that well, but 57 siege compared to 9 on the other side. So that's where a ton of Magic and Mitoe's population is. It's in the siege, and that is why these buildings, they're falling so fast. That keep, you just said we haven't seen it in a while, and we're never going to see it again. Puppy Paw, he throws in the towel. It's not going to be an hour game. We end it 54 minutes. Mitoe and Magic go up on the series 2-1.
Man, I think those trebuchets were MVPs on the back, because you saw from on the south side of the map that we were seeing, I think there were about 4 trebuchets just about that were going to be able to take down those keeps and take down those defensive structures. I think that's what's really won them the hill. I'm curious to see in that just about hour-long game, how many soldiers lost their lives in this battle.
That is always the interesting see. We can see kind of how these graphs transition throughout the game. Some of it just looks absolutely wild.
Yeah, like vodka. I can't read this. What am I supposed to do with this?
I don't think anyone can. I'm pretty sure there's hundreds of thousands of resources that were gathered, but I want to see the military kills and deaths. Both the Chinese players just absolutely crushing it. 1,455 kills by Puppy, 1,337 by Magic, but just proven to be too strong with Magic and Mitoe taking game number 3.
Yeah, and you can see the importance of the men-at-arms of both LaSh and Mitoe, because that's pretty much what they were streaming in, just being a front line. I don't even know if they were trying to kill anything. I don't even know if they did kill anything, but just being there and making sure the Hand Cannoneers in the back from Puppy, who obviously had more kills, and then from Magic in the back, both of them hovered around something about 1,300 kills or something like that, whereas LaSh and Mitoe a little bit under 1,000. Just got to maintain that front line. Just got to make sure those Hand Cannoneers are alive, because those are the ones that are actually going to do damage for you. But now I feel like, Dabston, we have talked about Game 3 for far too long.
Yes, we have. Game 4 is ahead of us. It's not a mirror either. We have English on either side, but one side's got Mongols and one side has the Deli. So this is going to be one that some action's going to be involved. You can't let the Mongols trade, nor can you let Deli control sacred sites.
Yeah, this one's pretty interesting because it's 2 different civilizations. Petito's telling us Game 4 is what he said. Just hop right into it. Let's just go. Let's just get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Ready to roll. Jump on into it. No waiting. We just saw an absolutely brawl in the long back and forth. But let's see what Dry Arabia has in store for us here.
Yeah, and I think this one's going to be pretty interesting too. I haven't seen Mongols and Deli go against each other in a 2v2 setting, and it's interesting because both of them have new cavalry units. As we all know, we've all played Season 5. Keshiks with the Mongols and the Ghazi Raiders for the Deli Sultanate. Kind of curious to see how they stack up against one another.
Yeah, we saw how strong those Ghazi Raiders were earlier with a game by Zertan just absolutely taking over. Yes, he had some water eco to support it, but still such a strong unit. Keshiks, they have their own kind of unique space themselves, but we are in game number 4. Can Puppy Paw and LaSh re-secure their way back in it and tie up the series, or can Magic and Mitoe secure the final game to move on to the semis?
Oh, this is going to be a good one, and I think it's going to be a really close one too. Looking at LaSh's spawn over here on the southwestern part of the map, pretty good Mongol spawn. I don't know if I would wish for a better one. He's got 2 gold mines pretty close, wood line right there. Ooh, a little bit far away, but that's okay. Puppy Paw on the south side playing as the English, his teammate, and Dabson. Who they playing against?
Yeah, we're looking over here at Mitoe on the English himself in the teal, and Magic on the Deli in the blue, staying as that blue squad, easier to kind of call out their team together. And they are indeed up 2-1 in this series. So this could just be the game decider for them. Going to be circled around. As far as sacred sites go on the map, they're all just central, dead center in that line, and I feel like you don't see that too often, but it's a nice look, I feel like.
Yeah, honestly, this is why I love this map. You know, I mean, there's just it's the epitome of balance. You know, these three sacred sites being in the middle is kind of like a microcosm of this map as a whole. The only real kind of RNG that you're going to see on Dry Arabia goes with what we talked about before with LaSh's spawn, right? And then some of these other spawn points, some of these little resource nodes coming in. I do see Mitoe's resources a little bit more forward, that English gold a little bit forward. Other than that, Dabs, I'm not seeing anything that's really like, whoa.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. Double deer for Mitoe looks nice and juicy. Would love to drop a TC right there, but would be a nice vulnerable forward location. We do know these players are known for dropping, you know, going more economically focused in a greater scheme of things. But Puppy, starting with that deer opening, you'll see this with French and English a lot. And mainly French, but English have that adaptation as well with the deer opening.
Yeah, it's interesting that they did that. And I remember the first time, actually, that you and I both saw it, and it was something that you put on your YouTube, if I remember correctly. This was all the way back months ago on Altai when Igus used to do this with the English, right?
That exact, if it might be over a year ago at this point, but yeah, it's exactly true, and it's been really adapted with French, with the way straggler trees have gotten moved, because back then straggler trees were further out, and some other additional things that just made the deer opening make a lot more sense as well.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. I mean, Altai being a different map, of course, having that deer pretty close to you, I understand why. Now, Magic in going up to the Feudal Age, going to be getting Dome of the Faith, and this is not the first time we've seen Dome of the Faith in the cast that we've had today. And to be honest, I've seen a decent amount of Dome of the Faith in just normal 1v1 ladder games. Have you been seeing it too?
Yeah, been seeing it a lot more, especially from people who I would say are known to be the Deli players and the Tower of Victory players. I've been seeing some of them drop Dome of the Faith as well. So maybe has been, you know, making that slow transition back to the Dome of the Faith builds.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting. I'm curious as to why they choose to do that, and especially for IamMagic, when you're with an English player, you know that English player is going to make longbowmen, right? So you making archers and, you know, that kind of stuff, probably not the best idea. He's going to be going more Ghazi Raiders, where the Tower of Victory doesn't help you anyway.
Yeah, and I love the early double horseman from LaSh. He's able to deny both side golds. He's going to go ahead and get this early raid bonus, burning down this mining camp from Magic. And these horsemen, they're going to prove to be effective not just now in the Dark Age, but throughout the earlier points of this game, just due to their mobility. They can constantly run around. They can constantly just poke and prod, whether it's a reinforcing longbow that stepped a little bit too far out, or whether it's villagers that are going to try to grab a resource or so.
Oh, yeah, and it's so good against an English player, right? Who's going to be making longbowmen out the gate. He already has one, has another one in the queue. And he's going to be able to, now that he is building Silver Tree, and he's about halfway done with building it, again, their English is going to be so affixed on their own base, maybe he can get a couple traders out pretty seamlessly.
Yeah, it's really going to be on Deli to try to focus on stop the traders. It's hard for English to get your army far enough forward to actually get to where the trade line is without making it too vulnerable. And we can already see the stables dropped. So Ghazi Raiders are going to be the play. And another reason why Dome of the Faith makes even more sense is because you're not having that archer ball mass that you typically do in your 1v1s. You're letting your teammate do that because he has the better archers. They're longbows.
Right, exactly. And obviously, not only are they a better unit, but he can make them better than you. So you might as well just let him do it at that point. But we do have some of our first Ghazi Raiders hitting the battlefield, and it looks like they will be finding some areas of attack. LaSh getting that Feudal Age Horseman, I should say the regular Horseman upgrade. Now, Ghazi Raiders against Horsemen, pretty good. When you have 6 of them against 1 Ghazi Raider, not as good.
Yeah, as most matchups are, yeah, even if you got a little bit of extra damage or extra counter or whatever it may be, camel unease if you're camels, 1 to 6 never really is a good enough number to win any matchup here.
No, not the ratio we're looking for. That's for sure. I'm seeing Mitoe move over just a little bit to that stone mine. I only saw 1 villager though, so not really sure if he's going to go for that second town center or not. Kind of a little bit delayed for the English. Doesn't go for that fast second town center, but is doing a good job of trying to get a little bit of map control on the back end. Going to put a tower right in the middle of the map on that second sacred site, making sure that his teammate is able to get a scholar over there and maybe just get that first easy sacred site to kind of open the floodgate.
Yeah, it's one of those that, like, at first I was like, oh, Mitoe's going to be behind. He's delayed, you know, from Puppy Paw, who's already had his second TC up now. But it also allows his teammate, who's the stronger player, Magic, to get further ahead. He can get the sacred sites because Mitoe is here to help control the center, has an army that's not, you know, a secondary TC first.
Right, exactly. And I think it's for Mitoe and the communication that they have in order to know that they're going to go for the second sacred site. Because again, Mitoe, being the English, his army, not as mobile, right? So he's able to pitch. It's basically, I mean, to use an English pun, he's setting up camp there.
Jeez. Setup camp, ability that been changed up a little bit. And that's one where now these Ghazi Raiders, they're hitting units that they want to be hitting. Those are keshiks. They have heavy armor.
Yeah, they do. And that's why I was really curious when this game started how Ghazi Raiders would do against keshiks and if keshiks were even going to be built, because it seems as though the Ghazi Raiders would be doing pretty good against them. Also with some horsemen. A Khan gets trapped. It's a GG in chat, boys.
The Khan goes down, and you can see how he doesn't really want to take this fight. He knows that the Ghazi Raiders kind of outclass his horseman keshik combo, but that's hard for him, just how you said. Well, it struggles. I find myself struggling when I'm making a unit that I know is outclassed by my opponent.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just don't. You just know it's the wrong move, right? But here's another good raid on Magic, kind of trying to get some of those outside Gaia food resources, not necessarily worker kills, but worker idle time. And we talk about Ghazi Raiders, and we just did, and we talked about how effective they are. You need a lot of food to actually produce them, so raiding those outside food pockets that the Deli really need is really important.
Yeah, I love that there were some scholars there, though, to heal up the Ghazi Raiders that were a little bit low and not really allowing the raid and the horseman keshik combo to be as effective in this trade. Because, yeah, you might hit out those units like we just saw, have a nice little turn and have a better trade as far as overall DPS goes. But Magic can just turn back around and heal those back to full.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just the power of having scholars in Feudal Age, right? Even though that was something that we talked about in seasons prior about it being busted, right? You would just have like 8 or 9 scholars in an area, and then your units would never die. Now it's not as bad, but being that you are the only civilization on the map right now that has the ability to do that, having maybe 3 or 4 scholars in that area could really help you out when a big battle takes place.
Yeah, and this is a really cool game design by Puppy Paw and LaSh. We talked about a lot about Magic and Mitoe's kind of game plan. Well, this whole time, all we've been seeing is LaSh be the raider. LaSh be the one who's taking all the aggression and all the focus. And behind this puppy, he's just been able to get that TC down earlier. We can see the eco lead is up to 12. That's nothing to be joked around about. Deli does have 2 sacred sites, is pretty online, but Puppy now has a longbow mass himself that is not to be joked around about and did not invest into any spears at all.
Yeah, and I mean, he does have the outpost around there too. You can see network of castles from both of these English players, actually. So that longbowman mass is obviously going to help him out. Ghazi Raiders do shred archers of any kind. Longbowmen, regular archers, I don't care who you are. Zugnu, you're going to end up going down because of them. So far as Puppy Paw getting that second town center and getting that economic lead, LaSh also with some traders with the Silver Tree, as we're highlighting there on the south part of the map, it makes me feel like Magic and Mitoe have to do something, have to push the initiative, maybe get some worker kill counts, maybe, you know, do a little bit of disruption to not let them spiral out of control.
Yeah, definitely one way to do it. The other would be if Magic decided to use this extra gold income that he's getting and go up to castle. Start with the compound, maybe take map control with the keeps, and look at that. Not the compound.
You're a pro.
It's the canceled compound. I'm not a pro. He's going House of Learning. So, not the typical choice here, and Magic must know something that we don't.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me, actually. I haven't seen. How do I phrase this correctly? I haven't seen a good House of Learning in a while. I'm used to seeing Compounded Defender just, again, because of things like village fortresses, and you're able to get your villager count up, and, you know, your stone's cheaper, you can get stone walls, all that kind of stuff. So the House of Learning, it takes a while to actually pay off. I'm curious to see. I mean, it's going to be probably until minute 18, 19, something like that, where you actually see those technologies make a difference.
Yeah, and I love how LaSh, he has trade, but it isn't that much trade. He just went with double traders once, so it's just not anything that needs to be focused, but it's something that really helps him over the course of this game.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely does. And now with Magic going into Castle H, he is spreading those scholars around. Going to be able to pick up a couple of those relics. I'll tell you what, I mean, we talked about the sacred sites only in passing glance a little bit, but he did a good job getting 2 of them. He got to him pretty unscathed, that team.
Yeah, and that was due to the help of Mitoe. He built that outpost in the center. He went back around with his scholar that way. But looks like the main fight about to go down. Longbow support from Puppy Paw, just kind of helping out, sniping a couple, and it looks like Mitoe had a little bit of a grievance against that wolf.
That bitey infantry looking a little too menacing, and it had to go down. I think that would have been a very interesting fight. I mean, both of these militaries are pretty much equal in number, actually almost exactly equal in number. But now with Magic going into Castle Age, Puppy Paw with the King's Palace, at only about 15 to 20% done, they're probably going to hang out for just a little bit, wait for some of these Castle Age technologies to come in. But again, for the Deli, you got to wait a little bit longer than most.
Yeah, this is usually when Deli goes up to castle, they have the sacred sites, and as they go up to castle, they start to lose control of the sacred sites, but then hope to get the relics, hope to get some other passive advantages, then retake sacreds with their tech advantage and control there. Ghazi Raiders, though, about to head towards Puppy's deer villagers, and Puppy Paw ahead of the curve, saw them on the way due to the outpost, and easy, another little bit of a pullback, and picks up a Ghazi Raider or 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice now with Puppy Paw having as many longbowmen as he does. As long as he stays around those villagers, it just means he can get some of those pockets that the English don't usually get, surprisingly enough. And look at this fascinating keshik technology. They're just burning down a wall, and they're going to be healing to full health just by taking down random wall segments.
They're making armor, so they take the wood pieces off, and then they just attach it to themselves, and they're like, now it's harder to kill me, so they've reinvigorated themselves.
I didn't know the science behind it, but I appreciate it. You take some of those burned palisades. I'll tell you what, if a keshik starts running at me with a burned stake attached to his helmet, I'd probably run in the other direction. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, there we go. Ghazi Raiders have been circling around. We can see look at those shields. Look at how cool those units are looking. The veteran upgrade is definitely through. And where are they going to find some connections?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they really, to live up to their name, they really are trying to raid and trying to pick off villagers. Just not seeing a good area for them to be able to do that for Magic and Mitoe pretty much for the duration of this game. You saw Magic trying to get raids out of Ghazi Raiders. It didn't look like he got a lot of damage in any way.
I mean, Puppy's almost able to like one-shot Lancers now. Dazzy Raiders finally circling, trying to hit some of the eco of LaSh. Another Scholar trying to snag a Relic. Gets taken on out, but one of the buildings going to go down before the Keshiks and Horsemen come back home. Will it go down? Villager. It's going to be able to heal it back up.
That was really, really close. And I think this just shows the power of having the Keshik as a unit for the Mongols, because in Feudal Age for the Mongols, if we were playing this on season 4, LaSh probably would have been castle about 4 minutes ago, because they like skipping Feudal Age. They didn't have a unit like this to contest, and now with the mobility of the Keshiks too, they're able to make sure that they don't get raided that much around the Uvu, which besides that trade route is probably the only raidable area.
Yeah, and we see that Magic has dropped down a second TC. We just saw him finish it a second ago. Don't usually see that from Deli, because the compound is usually what is their villager and TC production, I would say, but not able to do so. So needing to have a way to bolster that economy. Longbows thinks they have a circle. Keshiks aren't too far away. Good kiting back by Puppy Paw. Heads behind his Keshik reinforcement from LaSh. And now this is finally the main engagement. Fight is happening, but the Keshik number seems to be way, way stronger.
Yeah, there were so many Keshiks in the beginning of that battle, and now at the end of the battle, it's about 38 for LaSh right now. He still has a buttload of Keshiks, and they're going to be able to pull the torches out and heal on the outpost as well. Probably that next target is going to be that town center from Magic that just got built in that area. Curl Tie is going to help him out too. This could be really good for Puppy Paw and LaSh.
Yeah, and you can see that Magic wanted to grab that deer right there in the center where they're pressuring. And the Keshik's such a cool unit. It has like a 3-pronged bonus. They're sitting there burning stuff, which gives raid, gives them healing, and it's killing stuff from your opponent. But the mangonel on the backside, and it's not just one, it's double mangonels, could prove to have some absolutely brutal connections. And another mangonel coming out from Mitoe, but the Keshik dive.
That was just the amount. Excellent play by LaSh, because it was just the amount of Keshiks that you needed to take that thing out. Those longbowmen are just sitting in a circle around that mangonel, just trying to stay alive. Puppy Paw dodging them. Mitoe's mass is going to get cleaned up.
Yeah, and Puppy Paw doing an unbelievable job with that micro earlier on. Then it got to a point where you saw he wanted to just start attacking, split his units with the spread formation, and they have absolutely obliterated the whole entire army of Magic and Mitoe. Look at the numbers at the top. Not only is it military, Puppy and LaSh are significantly ahead in eco, and they're barreling down the main front side of Magic and Mitoe's base.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're above in eco by about 30. They're above in military about 60. That siege workshop and that town center, you might as well just delete it, because it's going to go down. And then all they need to do is just push up north. I don't think there's any way. I mean, Magic and Mitoe, they're never going to be able to mass up in time. Mitoe lost so many longbowmen because there was just a Keshik absolute surround.
Yeah, it was just crazy. There were so many Keshiks when LaSh went up to his castle age. You said, I think it was like 38 when he did it. And now with the Curl Tie, they're going to have this extra bonus advantages as well that the opponents aren't.
Yeah, and we're going to see those bonuses translate a little bit. And I know Puppy Paw changing his army composition just a little bit. I mean, mostly predominantly longbowmen, but adding some men-at-arms in the front as well, just to add that little bit of tankiness that he's going to have in the front. But look at this, as long as they keep their army together, 114 total military force, not counting reinforcements, you got probably about 90 to 100 there. You're not going to be able to take that down just sitting by itself, and the Curl Tie rounding up the back.
Yeah, I find the men-at-arms transition so effective after you win a fight especially. It's so hard for your opponent to get a unit that stops men-at-arms. It's crossbows. Well, what do you have? You still have 40 longbows from your one fight, and now you can snipe down all the crossbows, and then the men-at-arms are just absolutely just tanks with too much health, Chad-at-arms to be able to be dealt with. Longbows moving forward into the heart of Magic's eco, and I don't care how many relics he has, he doesn't have enough to stop the mass that LaSh and Puppy Paw have inside the base.
No, I think Mitoe, he does have that one mangonel, so if he hits the luckiest mangonel shot of all time and probably needs about 4 of them in a row, maybe we'll see this game turn around. But keshiks are going to be able to get a surround on even just Lancers from Magic. It looks like there's about maybe 8 or 9 Lancers out there. There's way too many keshiks. You're not stopping this Mongolian horde.
And you also just see through that whole time, Puppy Paw is just stepping forward with his longbows, constantly firing, constantly shooting, whereas the other side is having to run away. So damage is getting done and effectively getting done. Mangonel gets taken out. Second Mangonel is still alive, but now has keshiks on top of it. We'll get maybe one more fire off, but not too much longer for this world, and neither are Magic or Mitoe. We are going into another game number 5.
What an insane day. You know, that first series obviously went 5 games, this one being another game 5. And I'm going to say it for like the 3rd time. It's so good how these teams were actually picked and how they were designed. Every single series that we're going to see is going to end up being even series. You know, just because of the way that these teams have been able to be picked, and we're seeing that in the first series. Well, we saw it in the first series. We're seeing it in this series too. But now we're going to see a map that we have not seen yet. So we're going to be on Cauldron this time.
Yeah, and if my memory serves, I want to say watching Puppy Paw and LaSh yesterday, they said that they should just ban out Cauldron because they didn't like the way they played on it. But maybe they learned the way they played and have a little bit of a fix from what they did yesterday in their practice games. Deli and Otto are their Civ choices. And on the other side, it is Magic and Mitoe on Mongols and Mali.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of mirrors today. We really have. This is the complete opposite of a mirror. It's very interesting on Cauldron. Cauldron is not a map that I've seen in quite some time and have played on in quite some time. And we all know with that Cauldron, what's the most important thing? That little bit of witch's brew in the middle of that Cauldron. And I'll tell you what, Dabston, I haven't casted Cauldron in a while. I got a lot of puns for it.
Well, good. I know how you are with some of your puns and some of your sayings. I know you've probably been saving these up for a little while. So we're ready for this game number 5. It is going to be another exciting one. Which of these players or teams will be able to move on to the semis?
Yeah, I mean, this is a super important game. This is super important for the tournament. I mean, this kind of goes without saying. And hopefully all of you know this at this point, being that game 5, how many weeks they have been in these tournaments, how many days they have been practicing together. Now it's one game, win or go home.
Exactly that. It's Cauldron, but we got a little bit of time till we're jumping on in here. So in the meantime, never mind. I'm reading updates over here. We're getting updates, live updates here. Just wait. I think we're about to be able to jump on into this game and get in to see who will potentially move on along. As far as the Deli Auto grouping, I kind of like the way they pair together. I always think about the matchup against each other. They're very similar. They could both have their archer mass. They could both have bonuses to their archers if needed. But Auto has this different kind of levels of when they're stronger. They can put a little bit of pressure in Dark Age or match pressure, then to allow Deli to get to the point where they're online. So I kind of do like this pairing. It's not one that I've seen too often.
No, I usually don't either. And I feel like this is one of those that we're going to see Tower of Victory out of the Deli, right? Because they have the ability to do things like go archers if the Ottomans want to go Sipahi, or they have the option to not do that. You know, if they want to keep going with their Ghazi Raiders, they would be good against the Mongolian keshiks. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I guess because I get it, because the Ghazi is so influential, the reason why the Dome of the Faith is still there. But man, I'm really glad they made the changes to the Dome of the Faith, before. I think this was not the start of season 5. It might have been the start of season 4, where it works as a mosque. You can fit 5 scholars in it, all that kind of stuff. I really like those changes that it made because it gives it its own niche in a civilization that I think many of us who play this game or play Deli in particular think they're pretty linear.
All right. Well, looks like we're gonna potentially be getting us some snacks, a little bit of some food, some water, and whatnot, as gonna be figuring some things out behind the scene of what we got going on here, as well as what's going on next. As you can all imagine, y'all are sitting out there, you're like, wow, it's been a long day already, and we aren't even halfway to the mark. So we'll get y'all some updates. We'll get y'all figuring it all out because we're doing behind the scenes stuff. So let's go ahead and, well, actually, I guess before the break, a little bit of an update that we can go ahead and announce here is the Marine Lord Elyona versus Divine Kiljardi will be put to YouTube most likely. We will not be casting it live. That is the one that that unfortunately unable to see, but no spoilers, nothing being revealed. Make sure to catch it on YouTube. That will be posted. But for now, we're going to go on, take our little bit of a break, and be back in just a few minutes. What's good, everybody? Sorry for the little bit of a delay, but we are back and ready for our game number 5. And we might as well just be jumping right on into it after all the delay. Tim, what are you thinking? Who's going to be getting this game number 5? Just go ahead and throw out a guess.
Oh my God, you're gonna put me on the spot like that. I'm a LaSh boy through and through, so I'm gonna say LaSh is gonna win, and he's gonna be the MVP. Now, spawning in the northwestern part of the map, it is Puppy Paw playing as Deli Sultan. His teammate playing on the eastern side is LaSh as the Ottomans, and in this pivotal win or go home game 5, Dr. Dabson, who are they playing against?
Playing against Magic in the southeastern side on the Mongols. And we have Mitoe over there on the western side of him as the Mali. But as our wonderful observer Vodka was pointing out, it's not a military school opening. It's an immediate barracks. This means they need to prioritize protecting this water. And you can see how important that is. Puppy Paw, quick building this dock. He's got villager on top of it. Khan here as well. Scouts here. Everyone's just all on top of it. Oh my gosh. The field goes down! The field goes down!
Unbelievable.
Oh my God. This is so bad.
1698 health for that dock. And now you're down a villager. And now Mitoe's going to be able to put his dock right here. Not if LaSh's spearmen have anything to say about it.
The spears are up. This is just going to be a cluster of a beginning of a game here. And the dock gets canceled, the Vil goes down, and Puppy's dock, it's still standing, and it is at 99.9% over there. It's going to get finished.
Yeah, that villager coming in just in time. Gonna end up getting that down. And I think it's it's really important to deny that Malian dock, right? Just because in Dark Age and the ability to make transport ships, we've all seen those Malian transport ships just be absolutely infuriating to deal with. We gotta remember, for Puppy Paw and the Deli Sultan, his fishing boats can shoot arrows, and when you only have that one very small pond, that's a really good benefit for you.
Yep, and we see the spears coming out for the Mongol side as well, but just so delayed on it. And yeah, he's able to double produce, but that's using up your stone, and you're already behind. What are you going to accomplish with your spears unless you get somehow a mass that you can easily win the fight against Otto and then burn down the dock in time, which I don't see how that's a possibility right now. So I feel like Magic's just a little bit late with his reaction here.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, it is nice for those Mongolian barracks. They're going to pop them out like Noah's Ark at 2 at a time, but I feel like you're always going to be at that little bit of a deficit, just like you said. And if you're trying to take down the Deli Sultanate dock of Puppy Paw, those fishing boats are going to get mad at you.
Yep. So Mitoe, instead of going for that dock in the center, he used all his wood as the typical Molly opening, went for the pit mines, and went for the good old houses all around it. So that's going to be his eco bonuses. But looking up at the top, you can already see how this game is starting to favor Puppy Paw and LaSh.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's pretty textbook. One has a dock and one doesn't, right? So one's going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage going forward. And now with the amount of spears that LaSh has, take a look at this outside. He's going to try to burn down this Uvu.
Yeah, and more importantly, what this does, it forces more spears out of the Mongol player, which means the fishing has more time to pay off. LaSh is even rallying more spears to the middle, not even worrying about this Uvu. Like, again, I think it was just mainly to force more of a reaction out of Magic than it was to actually have success in taking this down.
Yeah, I think so too. And it definitely worked. Right, it made Magic have to get more spearmen. There's a couple more spearmen that were gonna be over to try to deal with LaSh, but had to come all the way back and become reinforcements. And the Mongolians, they do have the spearmen numbers, but they're stuck in Dark Age just a little bit longer when they might not necessarily want to. Mitoe's the only one going up to Feudal Age at this point with the Mantle Quarry.
Yeah, LaSh, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten the rest of his spears and tried to like group them up here. It would be 7-7, but he's slowly getting picked off, and now he's actually going to be losing this fight.
Yeah, that one spearman going down is really important, and this is when you have Dark Age spearman battles like this. A lot of times you see some of the top players with their micro trying to pull spearmen out of the way, and that's what LaSh tries to do, but Akan snipes it.
Yeah, and Magic does the exact same thing. Difference is LaSh has no con able to do that, but able to get a nice little turning point pick on that front side spearman that was a little bit being overzealous there. However, behind all of this, even if the spear's traded right now, what are the spears going to do? They can't close on the dock. They can't really deny a lot of resources except maybe the gold vein, but Feudal Ages are already coming up for all of these players. And the first will be Mitoe.
Yeah, that Mantle Quarry is going to go down. It looks like Puppy does not choose Dome of the Faith. He's going to go for Tower of the Victory. So probably going to see more of maybe an Archer Mass out of him or something like that. And then LaSh with the Twin Minaret. Of course, now with Magic going with the Silver Tree. Whoa, a lot of spearmen going down. Pretty good.
Yeah, unbelievable micro by the end of it coming out from LaSh, able to pick out a lot of those lower health spearmen and ends up winning the fight with 3 spearmen nice and alive.
Man, this is just from every aspect of this game so far. I know we're only 6 minutes into the game, but it just seems like Magic and Mitoe have lost on every minute by minute, trying to get the dock up, these little spearman raids, all of these things. They need something to go in their favor right now.
I don't know. It felt really cool for them when they killed that villager, or not. They killed the villager with the dock at like 99%.
That was pretty cool, honestly, and I would classify it as poggers.
But behind this, we actually saw Mitoe with some cows inside of a. Is it a pasture for them? Is that what it's called for them? I don't even know. This is
the cattle ranches.
Yeah, ranches, and that's what we'll call it. And he's going with multiple cattle ranches and filling those on up. So he is playing this other side of this economic game, whereas Puppy has the middle water.
Yeah, and I mean, Mitoe's got to do something, right? I mean, this dock, getting all of the fishing income and all of the food income for him, Mitoe's going to try to salvage at least a little bit of it to try to do something like passive income. And it looks like Magic is going to try to counteract that because there's 5 traders already out there for Magic. So we'll see if the dock reigns supreme, or if Magic can get this trading route going, Mitoe can actually spiral and keep going and going with that food income with the cattle ranches, and maybe they're going to try to offset it. The only thing is, this trade, although it might be more advantageous than something like a dock, it is going to take a while to set up, and this trade route isn't the longest I've seen.
Well, I believe he just built a market all the way on the opposite side to reroute it to be a little bit better. That being said,
Yeah.
still takes a little bit of while to pay off, and I'm scared for what Puppy Paw is going to have in the next 2 minutes of this game is really when you're going to see this Deli player just absolutely skyrocket up. I bet both sacred sites are going to be taken in the next minute or two, and then it's just gets really, really scary.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing there's even a ram coming out. 8 minutes, 30 seconds into the game. He's like, I have the dock, I have the water, and now I want your base.
Yep. And let's see if there's going to be enough numbers on the side of Mitoe and Magic to be able to defend this. At the current time, no. And it still just feel like it's going to trend further and further in the way of Puppy and LaSh if they can continue this. It's just due to this water, the trade's just not yet in that payoff timing.
And the thing of it is, I mean, LaSh, he does have a decent amount of Sapahi. He's got about 6. But for the army composition of Magic and Mitoe, while that ram is attempting to get torched down, for Mitoe and Magic, for their army composition, there's only 7 spearmen. If there's enough archers, you're able to take down the spearmen. There's nothing that these Sapahi have to worry about.
When the first outpost immediately goes down, archers actually focusing the military instead of the villagers, which I actually admire. It's what a lot of players need to start doing, because if you kill the military, then you get to kill the villagers for free.
Yeah, exactly. Those little bit of villagers might not be able to do too much. A spearman from Magic starting to charge in, takes down one of those Sapahi, or at least attempts to, from LaSh before it finally goes down, but it's not going to where they need to be, which is all of those javelin thrower corpses on the south dabs. Those are expensive units.
That was absolutely perfect micro by LaSh there. He had his Sapahi on top of the villagers, on top of the javelins that whole entire time. Puppy Paw with great micro himself as well, just sniping down the archers and spears, not focusing on those tankier javelins. Now they get to double down on this push. They know how successful the first one was. They know how beneficial their trades were. They still have this water eco going for them, and it looks like the Sapahi are circling around and might actually be able to deny some trade, and this time 2 rams being dropped.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how LaSh, he does have the Sapahi front line in order to help Puppy Paw with his Deli archers, and having a couple, even just 3 or 4, able to go around and make sure some of that trade gets kiboshed as well. But now we have the ram duo going to be able to take down, it looks like there was only 1 outpost over there. I'm not sure if he made anything more in terms of defensive structures, but he's going to need a lot of outposts.
Yeah, and this is the main goal to Mitoe, the main housing structure. He did build another outpost, but these 2 rams this time, they got other ideas, and it might actually be the same idea. It's the same outpost. He wants to go for the exact same thing, and Magic's army, it's so slow. It's been distracted. The 3 keshiks were chasing the Sapahi that we saw earlier on, and meanwhile, LaSh, he's got a big Sapahi mass. I mean, and Puppy Paw has more archers than Mitoe and Magic have total military.
I mean, this is just telling you what a dock does, right? You're able to use all of your villagers to put them on things like wood economy. So Puppy Paw has a lot of archery ranges, and he's able to pump archers out. He's got 6 in the queue. He has 34 total, and he's never going to stop. The Cauldron, very good in terms of wood lines. He has another wood line as well. He's just going to keep making archers over and over and over again. The military lead is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, the Sapahi number is scary enough too. I feel like the Sapahi, it counters out every single unit on the other side except for 3 single spears. So LaSh might be able to just take the fight himself, and Puppy can take the fight himself. They might as well just split, which isn't a thing you say much, but they could just split and fight either side 1v2.
That's a scary thought too, because of how much we talk about in 2v2 games. Oh, the choreography and being, having the synchronicity with your teammate and blah blah blah, and we're just like, no, like they're that far ahead. I really don't think they need each other at this point.
Yeah, it's like, just do what you want at this point. You're gonna win this if you just don't throw away everything. Looks like the keshiks diving in on those Sapahi. Sapahi deciding to pull on back, and Magic, he is left with just about 0 archers at the end of that fight. LaSh still has a good amount of Sipahi, and Rams are still working hard at damaging the other side base.
Yeah, and I mean, there's just enough of them that even javelin throwers were having problems. You know, I mean, for the amount of javelin throwers that actually were on the other side, now there's about 9. We'll be able to pick off archers one at a time, but just by the fact that, you know, there's 40 of them, it doesn't matter what the hardest counter is. When you have that much in number, you know, you're not going to get anywhere. And Deli even has both sacred sites.
Yes, he does. Going up with the House of Learning, exactly what you would expect throughout all this. He hasn't even had to really idle too much production. Why? Fishing eco. So just kind of shows you how much this fishing eco pays off. House of Learning is going to be able to come through, and from there, if veteran archers comes through first, it's the keshiks, everything else doesn't even matter. And if anything else really comes through, it still just feels like game. Relics are all going to be secured. If there's one thing I know about watching him and his brother, they're so good at splitting out a lot of their scholars right on top of all those relics, and you'll just hear like in unison like 3 or 4 relics picked up right off the bat.
And you saw that very quickly too. I think when we saw the Sipahi from LaSh going, there was a scholar right next to one of those relics. And if you're taking a look at the minimap, you're probably going to hear and see those disappear off the minimap. First one, bam, there you go. And we'll be able to take it back.
The second one.
Those keshiks from Magic trying to get around. Look at that Wolo. Get out of there. Get out of there.
And this gives time for the Sipahi to come around. Now this is a fight you can no longer take.
No, I mean, you obviously can't. The Sipahi are going to be able to help too. Veteran archers, now, I know we're talking about the Deli Sultanate, but the veteran archers will come at some point. But Puppy Paw not going to be trying to wait that long and actually going with lancers of his own.
Yeah, it doesn't really surprise me. Now he has, these aren't the discount lancers or keshiks or whatever you want to call them. A feudal, any knight that's in the feudal age, discount knight. These are castle age ones. These are going to be full on scary knights that aren't going to be easily dealt with, even with the few spears that that we see that have come out, because Puppy still has 50 archers.
Oh yeah, and that archer mass, like, it's being very protected by the Sipahi, right? So even if Mitoe tries to keep making javelin throwers, and it looks like he's kind of halted his queue at this point, but Magic trying to get a raid on LaSh. It looks like some of the wood eco. It looks like Magic and Mitoe, with Magic on the western side of the map, they're trying to raid their way back in.
And look at those keshiks just disappearing from those archers. Another Wololo comes through. Not going to be successful, but keshiks just haven't been able to do anything. They've just been running around in circles and very unsuccessful.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the issue with the keshiks, right? It seems like if you're able to get raidable areas, or if you're in an advantageous position, the keshiks are really, really good, because you're able to get raids on villagers, you're able to heal them and all that kind of stuff. But if they don't have a foot to stand on, they just kind of run around the map, and now they're going to get surrounded.
What a huge surround by that Sipahi mass. What, just LaSh closing the gap. Puppy and LaSh doubling the military mass right now. Magic just now hits castle. Mitoe's going up to castle as well, but this might not be the best timing for both of them to hit castle. They might want to invest in some more military.
Yeah, I mean, military count 101 to 47 in favor of Puppy and LaSh. And Mitoe, he's going for the landmark that's not really going to help him in the military department with the Grand Fulani Corral. Jeez, I can't even say it. I forget the last time I've even said that landmark.
That being said, he has prepped that Grand Fulani Corral pretty well. We saw quite early on him already having those cattle ranches pretty filled. He had 2 or 3 full ones, and you already see a full set around. So very, very nice ability for that food income. He's got a secondary TC behind this, and the trade's still working. So as long as they can keep extending this game, they're fine. But that's a big if they can keep extending this game. As if I'm Puppy and LaSh and I see my military numbers and see what's on the other side, I close this, and that's exactly what Puppy's doing.
Puppy Paw is taking his entire archer mass and running it through the streets of the Malian Empire. at this point. Going through town centers, archery ranges, and the quarry. There's a bunch of javelin throwers, it looks like, in the back where that secondary town center is, trying to make sure that their villagers stay alive. I mean, I kind of agree with what you said before, even though this was about, I don't know, 8 minutes ago, being like, yeah, these guys can just kind of do their own thing. And we're seeing Puppy Paw just kind of do his own thing.
Yeah, he's releasing all the cows. Very friendly person. He wants them to stay alive, be free, go escape, and, you know, doesn't want to... Oh no. He's going to kill them all. What a... You know, you thought he was going to be a nice guy. You thought he was a friend of the animals, being Puppy Paw, but maybe not the cows.
Well, we are in the cauldron. You need a little red meat for the stew, Dabs.
He's got to feed his wolves somehow.
Yeah, that's right. But, I mean, with only 2 ranches going down, with the corral, I mean, obviously it does give you a decent amount, but I guess it looks like Mitoe and Magic realize that they have to take this fight or they are pretty much dead. There's just, I mean, there's too many archers here.
This is a fight that Puppy Paw wins himself, and also when Puppy sees the Knights of Magic, keshiks of Magic, I should say, he says, all right, go in on their other side and look at what LaSh is about to do. This is the late game Mongols. There's no room to hide. Imperial army is going up as well for LaSh through this push, and Puppy is just crushing the front line of keshiks. Jav's trying to do everything they can behind this, but Trade's starting to get taken down, Vill's starting to get taken down, and LaSh is doing a ton of damage in the eco while Puppy wipes the military on the front side.
Man, just having those normal lancers against keshiks, whether they were upgraded or otherwise, they disintegrated.
Yeah, just in a blink of an eye, and the whole entire army mass is now disintegrating. Puppy is yet again in all of the streets of the Mali Empire, and he has some things to say to those villagers, to those javelin throwers. He's even walling around the Grand Fulani Corral with his archers to not allow any cattle ranches to be built.
Like, I get it. That's a very good strategy, but to me, just looking at it face value, it just looks like BM, doesn't it?
You know, it's it's not though. It's not.
I know it isn't. But like, just face value, I'm just like, wow, that's cold.
Yep, he's gonna go ahead and burn the next couple as well. So much for that landmark. And Mitoe is essentially out of this game. The trade, it's still been going, but it has been for a little bit, and I feel like it's just not quite enough. They're trying to do what they can to hold. We see a mangonel coming out from Mitoe and another in queue, so trying to make that siege transition, which can get you back in the game, but it's a big if you can keep it alive.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it would have to take miraculous shots from happening. It looks like on the other side of our little one-on-one engagement that we're having, there's a massive amount of Sipahi, and it looks like spearmen from Magic, but I don't think there's quite enough, and all Puppy Paw needs to do is to come on over and help him out.
I mean, LaSh doesn't even need any help throughout all this. He's got more than enough Sipahi, more than enough spears, and Puppy Paw's still winning the fight on the other side. After this push, LaSh again heads towards the eco of Magic. I thought it was.
I'll tell you what, this was a good highlight of the range of the Sipahi that you saw here, because LaSh did have a couple spearmen and they had them in the fight, and then the Sipahi were just be able to, you know, tackle behind them. But now all of those villagers, they don't have anywhere to go, Dabs.
Yeah, except it looks like LaSh had other things in mind. And there's the stepped out villagers, and that's those did not get pulled on back.
No, that's, oh my God, this economic count is just, it's cascading downward. Now they're at about 100, a little dipping below 100 to 134 for Puppy and LaSh. Oh man.
Oh, and more villagers on the front side. This time, Puppy Paw and LaSh, their armies are back together. This is the first time it's been a while, and they might just get to obliterate the other side. Main engagement is happening. Puppy Paw waiting to dive in with his knights, getting a charge on the backside, and all of a sudden we're going to blink, and IamMagic and Mitoe, they're going to be at under 100 total population, I feel like.
Yeah, both of them combined, they're just about almost there. And I feel like with Puppy Paw, he's got about 140 population. He has more than both of them.
Yes, he does. This game is looking like it will be going over to Puppy and LaSh any second now, as this has just been a convincing game number 5. Really, really good showing out of Puppy Paw and LaSh, able to secure that middle lake and just snowball from there. But Mangonels are still alive. Lancers have something to say about it.
Yeah, I think as far as alive, I don't think it's going to be alive for very long. There's Donzos of the Malian variety from Mitoe trying to help him out. But yeah, that Mangonel just popped and became one with the Stealth Forest. And so does the team of Magic and Mitoe, tapping out for that game 5, going to Puppy Paw and LaSh. And we're going to see him in the semifinals tomorrow.